All right, let me go add our wonderful guest, 3D Print
Oh,
General. So,
hey, your intros would be cool if it wasn't for the anime.
you like the music, don't you?
Well, the editing's cool, but I mean, I don't know why there's like an anime girl on it. But
That's the point.
oh,
Either way, allow me to introduce myself, or allow me to introduce our wonderful guest. It is the 3D Print General. He runs a great channel where, and also not to mention, the author of the fantastic book the 3D printing failures, how to diagnose and repair all 3D printing issues. It is a great book, almost as good. I would say, I won't go this far, but I've heard too by some people it's better than the Control Pew Guide. I don't know. I've heard that. And you can pick it up on Amazon today. I'll be sure to put that in the links below. But
Control Pew learned everything he knows from me. So.
well, that you heard it here first, everyone. But anything else you'd like to add for your own introduction?
No, you did good.
Oh, thank you. Good. All right. So, I guess today we'll be talking about the brand new Biden initiative, I guess, on 3D printing. Really, it kind of isn't much, if anything. It's more or less kind of saying what I think everyone that's into at least 3D printing knows now, that it's a pretty useful technology. If anything, it's more or less going to be about us talking about how far 3D printers have come, and if anyone has any 3D printing questions they want, they can ask it. This is more or less going to be a fun introduction to 3D printing stream originally, but hey, now I can make it topical.
There you go.
But let me pull it up first. Did you read it at all?
I kind of skimmed it. I sent it to my friend who runs a 3D print farm, telling him to get his Biden books. So,
well, I guess that's the one main thing out of all of it. If I could really just boil it down, is I guess Biden's going to be paying, or they want to subsidize people to use printers, I guess. That's the main takeaway, I think. But let me pull it up. This is a wonderful article from The Hill. I wish I could have it archived, but archive.org wasn't working for me. But don't worry, you guys don't. I'll be giving them a little bit of money with my ad block, but that's about it. But by reading it, it really basically says that he is telling companies like GE, Honeywell, Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, Siemens Energy, and initial participants in the initiative that there will be a voluntary compact between large manufacturers and their small U.S. base. Not enough American companies are using 3D printers or high-performance technologies, senior administration officials said, calling the issue chicken and egg problem. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so my assumption is if they're trying to get you with like GE and Lockheed, that it's probably not going to be FDM. I'm assuming that they're going to be, so like my buddy's company, for instance, I'm assuming this will allow him to get funding to maybe purchase a DMLS or SLS printer. Because I would assume that your standard Ender 3 wouldn't be making the stuff that, Lockheed Martin needs. But
I don't know. I like to think NASA has like a whole print farm of Ender 3s just kind of pumping out, I guess, spaceship components.
Well, it's funny. I mean, the space the printers for space are actually better for FDM just because they can work in space, but with 0G.
Well, yeah, no, this isn't. I think NASA is a Tesla has like some super like metal printer like that. Yeah, I'm trying to remember, but like it can do incredible things, like get really good like metal quality, and I think it's basically for like, I guess if we were to go to the moon, you could 3D print metal things and like actual metal structures. But yeah, I'm reading someone saying this is probably directed towards small rocket companies. That I would probably assume it's more for, I guess, metal infrastructure, if any. Or I mean, when you look at what they're basically saying here, it's pretty much like a good way of tooling. I think it's their initiative to bring back things to the U.S. And the initiative will be supported by the nonprofit Applied Science and Technology Research Organization. The Biden administration plans to launch federal programs to help small and medium-sized manufacturers support the adoption of adequate capacity and increase their competitiveness, including through access to capital, technical assistance, and workforce training.
Well, once you read federal program, I'm against it, but but everybody else gets free money. Why not?
I mean, we might as well get one too, if you mean.
Yeah, exactly.
But really, this is a very short article because it seemed like really no one kind of cared that much about this. I saw Biden administration 3D printed, and everyone immediately assumed guns. And I think when they found out it wasn't guns or wasn't banning ghost guns, they kind of just like, oh, okay, well, that's just a little bit. It's probably a good thing that we invest in more 3D printing. The best thing I could probably see for this, and I'm not sure maybe you might agree with this or not, but I think the best thing out of all of this would be it causes, I guess, more. It helps lower, I guess, it
helps destroy the dollar faster.
Well, okay, that's the subsidy part, but I'm thinking more of it helps kind of like increase, I guess, the technology or the adoption of 3D printing, and maybe if we're lucky, that could probably bring down some of the prices, or maybe we can have some more American or affordable American printers. Like,
yeah, I mean, we can hope, but normally when the government funds something, it actually gets more expensive. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to complain if he's going to create a program. I'm happy it's in an industry that I'm involved with. But yeah, obviously, I was like my buddy who runs the print farm. He's a staunch libertarian as well, and it's just like, well, everybody else is getting their money. You should go apply and see if you can get some too.
Well, yeah, that's the one main thing. If you guys are running your own little 3D print farm or some sort of company like that, this is a good thing for you. But actually, now that I think about it, you review way more printers than I do. How many American-made printers are there?
There's none. I mean, I'm pretty sure Lulzbot is American. I could be wrong on that. And no, it's funny. My buddy and I were just talking about this. And also I talked with Tim from TH3D on my stream. I guess it's going to be near impossible to make a printer semi-affordable here. But it's funny. My buddy and I were actually talking about pricing it out and seeing what would be possible if we were to do sort of like a Voron, but all pre-built, and and all the parts are already made, and it's all shipped from somebody in America like us. So I don't know. We'll price it out and see what's possible. But there's no way to make like a $200 Ender printer in America. But you might be able to do like a $1,500 really nice Voron as long as you're outsourcing all the parts to other manufacturers who already make good extruders and hot ends and all that stuff.
And the Voron, by the way, because I know a lot of people have recommended to use a Voron. What is exactly the Voron? Is it like a specific, just like buy a parts kit and then you assemble it yourself, or is it like just a general, like a open source printer, I guess?
Yeah, so I actually haven't even done anything with it myself, but I'm pretty sure it's an open source printer that you buy all the components and you print all the parts that are needed to be printed. So I don't even know if anybody's making money on Vorons, to be honest with you. But I mean, it's still like, it's a lot of printing. It's a lot of printing and it's a lot of assembly. And that's what we're saying. Like, what if, I mean, that's kind of like what the Prusa, the new Prusa XL, it's going to be $2,000. I don't think it's out yet. It's kind of like a Voron pre-built. And that's what we were trying to think of doing too, but only made in America. And if we could do it for under $2,000, I think there would be demand for it. But
is Prusa also in China, or is it somewhere in
Europe?
No,
they're Czech Republic.
Oh, okay. Well, Eastern Europe. Yeah. But okay, yeah, because I've been trying to think about it. What printer companies are based in Russia? Because I think FlashForge is also in Russia. And Creality is definitely in Russia. The FL Sun one I know is in Russia. ANET, I'm pretty sure. I mean, not Russia. I mean China. All these are almost all the companies I know that are selling printers that are at least in the affordable, like consumer or commercial space is kind of like roughly, or almost all of them are in China.
Yeah, they're all China. And somebody was saying, I thought it was $4,000, and I think that's if you buy all the upgrades. So you can get the Prusa XL. I could be wrong. I haven't looked at it since they launched the announcement, but you can do it. It's got a tool changer capability, I believe. So you can like get 4 different print heads, and I think if you get the entire upgrades, it's probably around $4,000. But I think a single print head is $2,000. I'll look that up actually. Let me see.
Well, don't worry. I have a good question for you as well. Mr. Jamez asks, what is your favorite beard product?
Is that me playing the music?
No, that is, I think, that is The Hill. See, this is something disappointing too. I'll let it play a little bit. You would think, in the actual article about launching initiative focused on 3D printing, they would actually, have a video about this. No, it's all about Roe v. Wade. There's not it is. That's all it is.
Okay, here, actually, while I got you, yeah. So if you just get 1 print head, it's $2,000. You could get up to 5 tool heads, and that's $3,500.
Oh.
So I mean that, yeah, I just like that they're doing an all-in-one really great printer you don't need to do any upgrades to, and it prints better than any other machine, like a Voron, but you don't have to spend a week printing parts and everything. But anyway, about my beard products, I actually like it's just jojoba oil. I don't know, it's just like that's all I use. Just rub it in.
Well, yeah, no, I'm looking at. Let me go read this other couple of things too. Yeah,
Uh,
this.
Real quick, and how do you keep such a flawless beard? It is not flawless. I have plenty of patches all over, but I comb over, so that's how I do it.
It's called combing. All right, but yeah, no, one of the things too, I tell a lot of people if they want the closest printer that is a plug and play is a Prusa. Is that about what your experience?
Yeah, I mean, it's just I think mostly with Prusa, you're paying for a name, and you're also paying for. I believe they have good customer support. I actually haven't done it myself, but you're mostly paying for customer support. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the Prusa i3. I feel like it should be like $300 or $400 cheaper than it is. But yeah, I mean, people are happy with it, and they have a good community. So I think you're really paying for the name brand and for customer support, because if you buy anything from Creality, you're never going to get a response on any problem you have. Yeah, I mean, I have been reviewing printers lately that have been pretty good right out of the box. The issue is that almost none of them have all metal hot ends, which is completely actually preferable if you're not printing with higher temp materials. But anybody who wants to print with like a carbon fiber nylon is going to have to upgrade the hot end. I would like to just see a printer that has all the stuff I'm seeing now, but with a high temp hot end, and that would be for instance, like the Minda Magician X was really good, and that was like $350, but it didn't have a high temp hot end, so
That one looked really nice. That was the one that was a little more slimline, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's based on like an Ender 3 build, I think, but it's got a thicker X Gantry. I actually gave it to
Chairman One.
No, Ralph.
Ralph.
You
give it to Ralph. Oh, dang it! I wanted that one. I thought.
And no, I get you. I've given you too many. It's time to.
You've given me the ones that all broke. Like the Mingda Rock Pro was. Oh my god, that's a good one. And then also same with the A-Net.
A bad carpenter blames his tools.
Hey, the A-Net one just started breaking itself. Like it didn't. The FL Sun is the only one that works, but dear God, getting support styled in on that one is a pain. But yeah, no, I at least want to mention this too. The Odyssey stream has apparently crashed. So if you're watching this on Odyssey, I don't know what's going on. StreamYard is telling me there is an issue with linking it over there. It's a very unfortunate. I hopefully can see what I can do to fix that, but that is a StreamYard thing. But I guess a little bit to at least I don't know, mention this, if anything, was to go back to at least talk a little bit about this, because I really, in all honesty, this is going to go more just talking about 3D printers, because this is basically, it's more of like a fun idea, but I don't know what will actually come from it. Hopefully we will see some more about it. But, we're using it for they're basically trying to use it for Lockheed Martin, Honeywell, Raytheon, all of these big name corporations that make things. In your experience,
not only will you get printed money free, you'll also help build bombs. So
hey, that's cool. Kind of cool, right? Maybe if I'm lucky, I can have like the actual footage from like the Tomahawk missile I make. That would be really cool. But what I was going to at least mention though is, something that you were telling me really early on was 3D printing and practicality. Was a lot of people earlier on when 3D printing was kind of just being like introduced to the consumer market, was mostly geared towards figurines, cosplay, stuff like that. Not too many like practical things. Where you've been around longer than I have, so you mind telling me a little bit more about that?
Well, yeah, I mean, so I worked for a 3D print farm like 2014 to 2017 ish, and we did a lot of practical prints. It's just they were boring. So anybody, I mean, like one of our main clients made basically enclosures. I think it was to like have Chromecasts in hotel TVs. And so it just needed to be a specifically designed enclosure. And, he would buy 200 at a time whenever he signed a new hotel. And, same thing with like the treadmills. He would add, I don't know if it was Chromecasts or what, to the treadmill TVs. And so we did a lot of electrical enclosures. It's just somebody trying, do a production run of 100 to 500 units. And they need a specific enclosure. So that was very practical, and we were doing that from the very beginning. And then also just prototyping for a product. Somebody wanted to see what it actually looked like in person. Those were both always practical, and that, we never did cosplay printing because it was like just too expensive to order from. But so that was always the case. But fun practical prints, I mean, honestly, or just practical prints you as somebody at home would want to do, and you're not inventing something, really limited. That's why I love the 3D printed gun stuff, aside from the whole freedom part of it. But it's actually practical. I'm practically using my printers now. I feel like I was making a bunch of videos on figurines and painting them, and I kind of got bored of that pretty quickly. I don't really care about having a Captain America bust, but
those make great targets, though.
Yeah, I've shot a lot of the ones I printed in the past, but yeah, no, the guns, and we were talking about this earlier. I mentioned when I interviewed Sanjay, who founder of E3D, who unfortunately passed away. He was talking to me off camera, saying how he thinks that 3D printed guns is the most practical use of 3D printers, FDM 3D printers he's ever seen, and it's just because it's actually using the mechanical strengths and properties, and you could do it in your house. I mean, we all know, everybody in the stream knows about it. So
right, no, that's kind of the big thing. I feel like all of us kind of know about. At least that's probably most people thought that everything was going to be about. But like that's something too is that I've always kind of found interesting. That's kind of something I noticed as well. Was the main things that people were using 3D printers from the beginning, at least earlier on, was figurines, cosplay props, and then you had like things like a Liberator. That was like around like 2012ish. So like it was an interesting, fun little novelty things. Nothing really interesting. And then when I saw, I guess, like the FGC9 for the first time, that was like the first time I started saying, "Oh, would you look at that?" Like people are actually making useful things. I also started seeing people making drones as well. Stuff like that is pretty cool. And then I think, what is it, Nerf? I didn't realize this, but there's also a very large Nerf, like 3D printed Nerf community.
Yeah.
Like,
I haven't. I don't think anybody's uploaded. I wanted to make a Nerf gun, but I couldn't find any files, and I'm a crap designer. But if there is any free files out there, or even paid ones, I'd actually want to make a Nerf gun.
Oh,
but even then, you say practical, but it's like a Nerf gun is still just a toy,
But it's a fun toy, though. Like, if anything. There's another thing I've been seeing a lot. And this is something I really want to try working with more. I brush up the old Japanese. But if you've ever seen some of, aside from the anime retweets, I've been following a bunch of these Japanese airsofters.
Yeah, I've seen those too. Yeah,
they are doing some just incredible things. Let me see. I can see if I can pull some up. But they have, or I've seen some of the most like ridiculous like gun designs that they've made out of like just 3D printed stuff, like stuff that doesn't exist, or stuff like you just can't get. Like I saw a 3D printed AK-12, a 3D printed like someone made a 3D printed 3011. Like
I saw that too. Yeah, that's really cool.
And that to me is like it's not guns real technically, but it is still something fun to do. And if you're kind of worried about making yourself like your first 3D printed gun, I feel like at first like starting off with an airsoft gun is a little bit a good start. It's a good thing just to try out. And plus, I'm not sure if you ever played airsoft like growing up or anything, but that's also it's a lot of fun still too. And you can also shoot people with it. You don't have to worry about that or the consequences of that afterwards.
Yeah, no, that was always a lot of fun. Oh, real quick, I just want to let you know there's good news. Somebody said in the chat you can 3D print a life-size waifu. So that's good
really
news.
Now? Oh, well, that'll be a lot of fun. Send me the link to that one. We'll see what I can do for that. But also, I wanted to mention something as well. Someone was mentioning about how is there any good IDEX printers? We were actually just talking about this a little bit earlier. The IDEX, or you got a new IDEX, right?
Yeah, and I'm actually really liking it so far. Actually, you can see it. Yeah, it's right there. That tall guy. It's not being run right now because I didn't want to make too much noise. It's it's actually a really good one. It has good extruders. It's like a off-brand Titan. So not dual drive, but still pretty good extruders. And
you haven't made a video about it yet?
No, I literally just got it a few days ago. So I printed. This was the included file on there of this Fox, and it actually came out pretty good. I have no real complaints, and it did it without a prime tower. So I have to research on how it's wiping the ooze. But IDEX printers are the only way to go if you want to do dual material. The connected print heads I don't like. It oozes, and if you just use one hot end, like a lot of printers used to do, it'll clog if you try to do anything.
Oh my God, yes.
different
As someone, yeah, the 3D printed FGC9, the one with the 3 stripes on it, I have like 13 failed or like prints because of that. It's when you do the layer swaps, it is not fun. Like, you can do it, but yeah, the chances of clogs go up exponentially with each or switch you do, and it is infuriating.
Yeah, and there's a lot of printers that they have 2 extruders but one hot end, so they go into one hot end. And,
oh, like the mixed one, yeah, they're the ones that like make a blend.
Yeah, and I have gotten that to work with dual color, but I don't know. Dual color isn't really exciting to me. I guess if for your particular use case, it would, making the stripes in the FGC9 would be useful, but I've never really even needed dual color for any of my projects. But yeah, the IDEX that I'm reviewing right now, it's by Sovol, Sovol, and it's their something 4, SV04, I believe. And it's actually been impressing me. It's been working great, and like it's a huge build volume. It's 300 by 300 by 400. So I think that's CR10 size. And so far, so good. The only drawback is it doesn't have all metal hot ends like most printers don't. And which is fine if you never plan on printing above 250, but you can't do like carbon fiber nylon on there. And IDEX is the only way to go with dual materials. And I have gotten dissolvable supports to work. The only thing is it's only worthwhile for materials that suck at angles. And I've had trouble even with those, but if the material you're trying to print has really tough time doing angles, then dissolvable supports will help. And then also if it's literally an impossible model, like you wouldn't be able to remove the support structure. Otherwise, I still prefer single head parent support material. So only get an IDEX if you really need dissolvable supports, or you really want to do dual color, because otherwise I feel like you're paying for something you don't really need. But this is only $500 something, which is not bad at all for what you get.
Do you want to explain how much dissolvable salt or supports cost also?
Yeah, I guess I'm spoiled. I don't really. I get.
Yeah, no, you do. That's why.
I think it's $50 for 0.75 kilograms.
Yeah.
I believe you might have to double check me on that. And they are water absorption more so than nylon. Like you really need a dry box when you print with dissolvable. I mean, it's PVA, so which is going to absorb water because you're dissolving it in water. And let me think. Yeah, overall, but the other benefit of the IDEX is you can print 2 items at once. So you can, if you need to print a bunch of the same item, you can do 2 at the exact same time, like they mirror each other. So that's another benefit to IDEX as well.
Yeah, now I finally got it pulled up, so let me just pull this up on
and
screen.
You're keeping an eye on the chat, right? I'm not in control of the stream, so I haven't.
Well, oh yeah, I'll go look at it in a second while I pull this up. But this is kind of what I was talking about.
Yeah.
This is Japanese gun Twitter, I guess, where they are. Sure, this is some dude who made an airsoft version of a 3011, and here it is shooting. Let me see if it has sound. Oh,
it's so cool. Is that CO2? I'm assuming.
I'm assuming so because it has gas blowback. Which, by the way, this is a fun little thing about Japanese airsoft. They really take airsoft seriously over there. It's some of the coolest things. You'll see some of the coolest guns there, but because they have to be airsoft, they don't have like recoil or anything like that. The mechanisms to get these things to work is just sometimes almost more convoluted than actual guns themselves. Because yeah, I know you're right. It's not just something easy.
Yeah, and are they releasing files? Like, is there?
I don't think so, and that's the thing is I need to brush up on my Japanese a little bit because I want to talk to these guys a little bit more because this stuff I think is really amazing, especially for people that not. I like to think we can make things other than just immediately just normal guns, like stuff like drones, and it's fun to have other things to print besides just guns, and you can also shoot. If you really wanted to, in theory, you can also technically train with your airsoft gun. Then and not have to shoot the other one. Save money on ammo too.
Yeah, no, it is fun. You get to shoot each other with it, so that is. I haven't done that though since I was like 13. But yeah, my stepbrothers and I used to always have airsoft battles, and the guns were pretty expensive, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so that's a lot of the good ones are imported from Japan. When I was over there, I almost picked up a couple of them because they were just like they literally look like actual guns. They are amazing, but that is one of those things of. If you can 3D, so from what I was reading up on, apparently like 3D printing really like kind of broke the Nerf like market because you could just 3D print Nerf guns for better. And similar thing with Airsoft, although Airsoft's a lot harder how that works because it's not. It depends on what you're trying to do, and there's a lot of work that goes into it. Things like hop up, and also, by the way, yes, I can notice you. Don't worry, Ken's Counseling Couch. I can read the chat. I can
So
multitask.
he's intentionally ignoring you, is what he's saying.
If you throw money at me, maybe I might notice. Okay, but yeah, no, that was at least. I definitely think there should be more of at least. I want to work harder with trying to speak to them, but there's a lot of other ones than just that one. I guess they see what we're doing, and I guess they're kind of making their own way of doing it. I guess it's not, the anti-gun control thing because it's Airsoft, but I mean, it's still something fun. I'm perfectly. You can still have fun things too.
Yeah, and all I care about is if it makes a good video or not, and it would make a good video. So
yeah, no, and I at least kind of want to mention some other things too about. I'm also seeing some HTPLA as well, and that is, or that we were also kind of talking about that a little bit ahead of or earlier as well, about HTPLA plus, and what are your thoughts about using HTPLA plus?
I've never used HTPLA, and I guess I am behind the mark on that one. So I mean, do you have to anneal it? I'm not exactly
so yes.
Sure.
Actually, I just picked one up. Teddy is here. He's also in the chat. I have to thank him for this. He told me about this one. It's called fusion filaments. They for a while the only real HTPLA plus that was out was the Protopasta one, and that one cost about like $50 for like 500 grams of filament. And okay, some of you can afford that. Most people, and myself included, I'm just not going to do that. This is about like $28 to $30 for 1 kilogram. So I'm looking forward to testing that out. But the main thing,
anneal it at 110, that's really high.
Yeah, no. So you have to anneal it ahead of time, and in that case, because this is something I'm pretty sure you know about this, right? Annealing PLA, you get a lot of heat resistance. Like it becomes almost as good as ABS. I think it's almost better sometimes as well. But that is only once you anneal it, and the big issue always arises of warping. You can anneal PLA, and you can anneal normal PLA, and they'll also get all those wonderful resistances. The issue though is you have all of your dimensions basically warp and just get changed, and sometimes it just looks they just break altogether. Like there's a reason why it's not used so often. HTPLA, from my understanding, what it does is it allows you to anneal it, but it doesn't deform, or it deforms in a much more predictable and consistent way that you can kind of account for it. Yeah. So it's still going to most likely kind of deform, but you can at least have a consistent way to account for it and kind of just make it work. I'm looking forward to trying it a little bit more, but because we were talking about this too, and I think this kind of can tie back a little bit to what we're mentioning about making things better. And for me, when it comes, or what I expect for 3D printers to become, more mainstream, or when they become, I guess, when we start, like the next big thing would be being able to print higher end filaments for cheaper, like being able to use PEEK or something. What are your thoughts about that? Where do you think it's going?
Yeah, I mean, we're just now seeing actively heated printers that are coming out. The two that I've seen are the one that I reviewed, the iFast, and there's another one that I'm getting sent to check out. But both of them actively heat the chamber to 60 degrees Celsius, which obviously wouldn't be high enough for PEEK. But because once you hit like 70, 75, you start getting into the realms of you need like remote stepper drives, because the stepper motors can only really handle like 80 degrees Celsius before they malfunction. And, they run hotter than the environment.
Yeah, no, that's the thing that I've done. I figured myself out too. Was you could wrap your printer in a lot of plastic bags, and you'll be able to get a pretty hot enclosure. It's not a full like actual real enclosure, but you can get it pretty hot enough where you can print ABS or ASA in a Ender 3 pretty well. The only problem you'll run into is the stepper motors get really, really, really hot.
Yeah,
and when they get really, really hot, either you start getting a lot of issues that start to arise.
Yeah, so you need to either like water cool the steppers, or you need to have them remote. And so it's funny, we're actually talking about this. My good friend who runs the old print farm that I worked at, who I was telling needs to get his Biden bucks. He literally made a really cool enclosure, actively heated enclosure for one of his printers. And we were talking the other day, and he thinks he can make it for any printer. And we were talking about potentially, judging the market to see if there would be demand for it, because it would be for essentially any printer. And I think we could charge about $150. And you just, rather than a Creality tent, you buy this and you can actively heat your chamber. But even then, and we could technically, he was telling me he can get it up to 90 degrees Celsius. It's just the printer wouldn't be able to handle it because of the stepper motors and then, all the other stuff. But
I want to kind of also address this too, because someone's mentioning, I did 4 functional prints on PLA Plus. It works fine. Yeah. That's true. It does. Yeah. PLA Plus does.
PLA Plus is actually really good. It's just the heat resistance. So, right. I mean, it's stronger than ABS and ASA, I'm pretty sure. So I mean, it is a really good material. It's just the heat resistance.
I guess I also help you plug your old stream with Hoffman as well, because that was the big thing you guys were talking about specifically was air. PLA Plus is a fantastic material. It's great. Yeah. You and I both know from our experiences of shooting with Hush is that PLA stops being so great when it gets really, really hot outside.
Yeah, and it's more so. I mean, and it really has trouble when it's thin and spring pressure. That's when it really is noticeable. It'll deform at even lower temps than, if there's no spring pressure and it's a thick part.
Yeah. I got the Riptide Rails FGC9 mag their mag catch, because they sent me a couple of things. They sent me the feed ramp for the Mac Daddy, and they sent me the mag catch. The reason why I wanted the mag catch one in particular is just because that is the one part that has failed on me every single time, especially when I go shooting when I shot with you guys. Was the spring tension alone with that just how hot of an environment it was would always cause it not to necessarily break, but to just deform to the point of it's just useless.
Yeah, Riptide actually sent me all those metal parts too. I'm gonna be shooting my carbon fiber nylon with it soon. But yeah, I mean, for instance, also, I don't want to bring guns on stream, but I just finished building the 22 lever action that Vin has shown off, made by Kay Murray. It's still in beta right now, but I built it and I made sure to do it in ASA because there's a really strong spring pressure on, I can't remember the name of the part, and it's fine in PLA, but I have a really strong feeling, since we're hitting really high temperatures right now in Texas, that it's going to have issues, because I mean it's a strong spring. So
I mean, that's something we can test out with this HTPLA. I'll see what we can do with that if we want to try that.
Yeah,
but I also want to see or mention something too. Ken's counseling about, or said, who will be the mad lad to print an entire FGC9 in Peak? I cry for your wallet. Now, you don't have the ability to print in Peak, right?
No, and so we were talking before the stream. There's a company called Vision Miner who I've talked to 3 times about doing a live stream with, and we just keep not being able to set it up. But they make more affordable Peak printers. So originally I thought it was 8,500, but now it says 9,700 on their website. So we're approaching the 10 grand range, which is already, more than I was hoping it would be. But they make an IDEX 90 degrees Celsius chamber, 500 degrees Celsius hot end printer that can print Peak. And yeah, I'm in the same boat. I'm really hoping that it'll eventually come down in price and be more affordable. I mean, the more demand there is, and now that the patents are expired, the prices will come down. I mean, you got to remember, we were paying $2,000 for a basic printer in 2016. So it's
I remember. I remember the stream that you did, your first Odyssey stream where you did with Hush, and then I think Chairman Juan also joined in as well. I forgot who else was there too, but Vin. Was it Vin?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was Vin. Yeah, I remember that. That was a fun stream because I think Chairman Juan joined midway through. But you guys were mentioning, I think Chairman had one of the original printers as well, one of the early 3D printers that was $1,000. That's worse, or
probably more.
Yeah, probably more, and it was smaller. It's smaller than an Ender 3 that you can get for almost sometimes $80 if you know Micro Center.
Yeah.
But I was going to mention this too. Who will be the mad lad be able to print an FGC9 in Peak? That would the only person I think I know that could do that would be Jeff Rodriguez or Durwood, because they
and so Jeff Rodriguez showed he has a printer. I asked him about it, and he sent me the info. It's supposed to be able to, it has active heating and everything. This was before the patent expired, and I couldn't find anything on it. So I'm assuming they got a cease and desist or something, because It must have been a small production run that he was able to grab.
He explained it to me, and I forgot it, but yeah, it's you want to talk about the strat or why we don't have heated enclosures?
Well, yeah, I mean, it was a patent, one of the many patents Stratus has held for, I think it was like 20, even more than the regular patent length they held onto it. I mean, it's so weird that you can, I mean, they even patent, if I'm not mistaken, fully enclosed printers, which is just so strange to me that you're able to patent enclosing it. But
Was that the whole thing with like the Ender like 6 where it wasn't like, or what was the Ender one that you did that was like had the top open shit?
Well, so I don't know why they did that one, but that's why I believe most enclosed printers had some weird holes in it. Like the door would like have a cavity that air could come out from, and I think they had to design in stupid holes. And now, but that I think that's expired too. So yeah, it's. I mean, this is one of the reasons that printing didn't get to the masses until recently. There was a lot of patents that expired, like I think in the mid 20 teens, that allowed more companies and allowed people like Creality to come in and make it super cheap.
Yeah, and I guess if anything too, but if anyone wants to see an FGC9 printed in peak, go harass Jeff Rodriguez. I think if we can get him enough money for it, I bet he'd probably, if we buy the filament for him, maybe he would.
I mean, it'd probably be $600 just in material.
That would be a thing we would have to fund. I'm not paying for that. I don't think he would pay for that, and I don't think I'm paying for that. But if someone wants to see that, though, I bet he'd be willing to try that, if anything. But yeah. I was going to, because another thing, too, I wanted to mention as well, at least with some of the others. Oh, we have Flying Rich here, too. A couple of tech guns. Who else is here? A lot of people showing up now.
The comment, how the fuck do they plan on enforcing that patent? It's lots of lawyers.
Lots of lawyers, in fact. Oh, you had the wonderful stream with, oh, who was it? Prototype.
Design prototype test.
Yeah. You had that stream with him. That was really fun to watch about that one.
Yeah. Well, anybody who watched that knows I'm against patents entirely, but that's for another conversation.
That's a stream that's already happened. In fact, I guess we could put that one in the description below if you want to watch that. Yeah. But yeah, there's a reason why you don't see things like that anymore, and specifically because of that. Patents are a lot of the, I guess, maybe things that are stifled the 3D printer market, and has been usually patents, because from what I gathered from that stream too, is Stratos did a lot of things for advancing 3D printers. It's just they patent a lot of it, and it became difficult.
Yeah, I mean, it's how I feel with a lot of. It's like, oh, would the innovation occur without the patent? And it's like, yeah, inevitable. If something can exist, it will inevitably be invented. It just maybe might take another year, but at least then you don't have 20 years of nobody else being able to make it. But
well, yeah, and someone's mentioned there's no such thing as the word patent in China. Well, I mean, the Ender 3
importing it to America, it could be stopped.
Well, that's a fun little thing. Is if you go to eBay, you could always find like the fake EOTechs that are technically illegal to buy or like sell. They just always just create new companies. It's like the Shell Corporation that every time one dies, they just immediately make another one. The hundreds of different names you'll never know. But that's one of the things. I mean, I'm trying to think about it too, because when was the first? I guess when would you consider the first commercial or like I guess a consumer printer that you saw on the market?
Well, as I say, I didn't get into 3D printing until I joined my buddy's company in like 2014. I mean, I'm not sure on the actual first. I know that Maker Gear was like the most popular for a while, or Maker Bot. Sorry, Maker Bots were probably the most popular for a while. I mean, I know Airwolf was an American company that made them. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure on the actual first. I mean, it was the RepRap project, but I'm not sure what the.
Because for me, the first, like I guess the first commercial, I guess consumer printer that I saw was probably the Ender 3. I know a lot of people that bought Ender 3s.
Yeah, that came out I think like 2017 or 18, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
I could be wrong in that, because like my first video ever on my channel was it's still up, is making a printer for under $300. And because that was before the Ender 3 was possible. And,
oh God, that would be a fun watch to see.
and that was 2017, so I don't think the Ender 3 was out yet in 2017.
Yeah, because I'm trying to. Well, first
off, you wrong. I mean, if it did exist, then I wasted my time building that printer.
Yeah, well, you could buy an Ender 3 for sometimes under $80 or like $80, which is almost fantastic. That's pretty darn good. And then not to mention all the Ender 3 clones that exist. it's a lot. There's a lot of them. I bet you know that more than I do.
Yeah, I turn down Ender 3 clones for review every day. It's just I say to them like there's nothing unique I can say about this.
It's an Ender 3. It's the
Yeah.
basic.
The
I
only
mean,
ones I've done, the only one I still work with is Elegoo and their Neptune series, just because Elegoo's just been a really good company to work with. They don't care at all what I say about their printers and don't have any time frame. So I actually just like working with them. But
okay, well, let me read this one because we have a question right here from Ken's Council Couch. If you guys have a question specifically, be sure to ask. And if I missed it, I'm sorry, you can ask it again. But Ken's Counseling Couch has a question for me and the guest. Are there 3D printers that we should just stay away from? I've been seeing mixed reviews on a few different brands, so I'm trying to stick with Creality. That's more for you.
yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to say any one specific company has the. I mean, ANET obviously has their reputation of burning down houses, but they fixed that a long time ago. But they still have that reputation that they're never going to get rid of.
I mean, I know for the ANET you gave me, I think it's the one that's supposed to be like the CR10 clone.
ET5, I think.
Yeah, no, because that one, it's really annoying because you can't PID tune it, and it will constantly shift. Like you're gonna have to do like the breakout board thing where you have to like convert. You're gonna basically have to like hack into the mainframe and that type of fun like elite hacker stuff to actually get it to update the firmware, and that way then you can finally PID tune it. So that way you'll finally like not have ringing or just horrible ringing, because it's just that, and also it just randomly just decided to stop working where it would just
again you're blaming the tools.
Yeah,
the user.
Silly.
It worked fine for me before I gave it to you, but
maybe you got hurt in transportation.
But they, in general, I mean, I'm sure there are brands. I just would stay away from any printer that doesn't have a lot of reviews and valid reviews, not just fake paid reviews on Amazon. But from the most, I mean, so many printers are just clones. I mean, you do have to be a little careful. Make sure you do watch reviews. For instance, the Voxelab Aquila, which is like an Ender 3 clone, doesn't have thermal runaway protection, which can burn down a house if it's, if your thermistor is not connected or something. And yeah, it's hard for me to say. I haven't, all the ones I've reviewed, I generally don't have something specific. Creality actually has a lot of people don't like Creality right now. I mean, I don't know if you guys are following this. I'm just in the 3D printing community, so they have their own cloud printing service. It's like
yeah, you want to talk about that? Yeah,
yeah, and they're not doing a good job in preventing stolen files from being uploaded, and so there's a lot of people in my community that are refusing to review Creality machines until they stop doing this. I actually have a Creality machine that they sent to me before any of this was going down, so I'm going to review that. But Creality has their own issues. I know that Tim at TH3D doesn't like the way they build their firmware, which I agree with. It's not open source, and you can't. For instance, if you just want to increase the max temperature on your one of your new Creality machines, it's not easy at all.
And yeah, I wanted to mention that too, because like the Ender 3 and the Ender 3 V2, and I think the Ender 5.
And the Meanwhile PSU swap too. Yeah, the Ender 3 V2, I believe, or I don't remember which one.
It's a Pro, I think. I think the Pro.
Maybe the Pro. They were supposed to have a Meanwhile power supply, and they are now not including it. So yeah, they have their own shady stuff. It's just mostly that they're just so popular that people still like them. But for instance, Sovol, Sovol, the one I'm reviewing, Tim at TH3D was telling me he's taken apart every printer possible. He likes them the most for an inexpensive printer like an Ender 3, just because he likes the way they build their firmware, and they actually aren't cheaping out on important stuff that will, help spark a fire or anything.
And I'm not sure how many of you guys know about TH3D, but they are really good with firmware. Like, I think even if you have an Ender 3 V2, it's the first one I did as well, is they have like their own sort of like, you can, it's not necessarily like, you're still going to have to compile it, but it kind of does a lot of the hard like stuff if you don't know what you're doing. It takes a little bit out of it. It's very nice. And
yeah, he right there says, if you want to do this, do this. He tells you exactly what to do in each section. Versus trying to compile your own firmware, which is always, it's like a different language to me. Well, yeah. I guess it is a different language. But.
Yeah, it is coding, but that's a really important thing to mention too, because what I really like about my Ender 3 is I notice the difference when I tried it like stock versus when I do when I switch up the firmware. It does affect the printing to some extent, and it is nice.
Yeah.
But that's a really important thing. I did not know about that other stuff with the newer enders, which
Well, yeah,
is
I mean, so there was. I have to look it up. I linked to it in my Twitter, but for instance, my Ender 7, which is an overpriced machine that nobody should get, but I got it
oh,
for
that's a shame.
review. I mean, it has decent parts on it, but it's just weird marketing. Like, and I don't know, for $700, I think it is. It's not worth that price point. But I wanted to put a Chimera on it because that actually makes it a decent printer. But I wanted to increase the max temp, and it was a nightmare trying to figure out the firmware. There's one guy who made firmware for it, and me I don't have a great, coding or firmware background. It took me like 6 hours to figure out how to do it. I didn't realize, since all the touchscreen Crealities, you got to upload icon packs and everything into the screen before you can flash the firmware, and it was kind of confusing. But I ended up getting it to work. But there's one guy who made firmware for it, so it's not.
What's the other board? Because I guess we might as well also mention this about when you're talking about Creality print, because that's the cloud thing. There's also Octoprint, and then there's the other motherboard, or what's the main board that people always swap out too? Is it? I'm trying to remember, but there's people I know will swap out the Creality board with something else.
Oh yeah, I'm not sure, to be honest. I'm sure somebody in the chat will let us know.
Yeah, and also someone's mentioning Gyre's or his BL Touch one.
Big Tree Tech makes a lot of boards. They keep trying to so Tim at T3D, you guys should watch that stream if you guys are interested in this sort of stuff, because I had him on because I'm not super educated on boards and firmware, and he really is. And he doesn't like Big Tree Tech because they come out with new boards every 2 seconds instead of trying to make the absolute perfect Big Tree. So Tim has one board. I think he just came out with the second version of it. But he's not continually. He's like, I'm getting all the good parts ready for one board, so I'm not going to keep improving it every month with a new board.
I figured it out. It's Mo Breezy also said it. It's the Escar or Skirt Mini. That's the one I've heard people using. Like that one I know for a fact. If you wanted to get it to work with the Ender 3v2, you basically have to just give up on the whole screen. Like it's just not going to work. Like you're not going to be able to use the fun little screen they have there, because the firmware for that is just, you're just not going to get it to work. You're gonna have to insert your own like touchscreen if you want. I think they like sell certain ones that like kind of work with it too. I'm not sure if you could do that with the Ender 6 or Ender 7 maybe. But
yeah, and everything we're saying right now is why Prusa is so popular. It's just, you don't have to do anything to it. And if you look, their screens are still the old-fashioned blue background text screens, and they still sell and people still like it because you don't have to worry about any of this. It has the high temp hot end on it, so you don't need to change it. It has good firmware. It's just,
Yeah. Someone said maybe you can get the passes along to Tim, but Teddy's here says Tim needs a board with 5-stepper drivers. I'd pay money for that.
Oh wow, yeah. I used a duet once with the. I had to get an addition to it too. I think maybe it was only 4 steppers though. I don't think it was 5.
But at least going on the fun other printers that we want to talk about too, because I mean I think this is something you definitely have way more experience than I do, because a lot of people will always go to like look at Ender 3s or just 3D printers in general, and they're just a lot, a lot of ones out there. Like one of the ones I really like, the Flash Forge is really nice for what it kind of is. It's a nice package where it doesn't really move too much. You can put things on top of it, but dear God, it has its own little set of problems as well. I've learned. Yeah. I thought it was a great, like almost like a Prusa sort of. Then after using the Adventure 4, it's not as good as that because you have to use their slicer and stuff like that. Proprietary slicers are not fun.
Yeah, and they all seem to try to do it. I mean, even Creality reskins Cura, which is annoying, but
Cura works well on it though.
Yeah, Cura. I mean, it is easy to set up Cura on Creality machines, but yeah, I think there is a gap in the market. It's funny. This is why I was talking to my buddy. Like, what if we made an American-made printer, needs no upgrades, it works great. Let's price it out, see how much it would cost, and what we could charge. Because I mean, like I said, Prusas are $1,000 assembled, and they are, you can build a Prusa with the exact same parts for $500.
Wasn't that basically what the Ender 3 was supposed to be? Kind of like it was supposed to. Weren't the Enders supposed to be Prusa clones at the beginning?
Yeah, I'm not sure all the patent stuff. That's the other guy's talk. I'm not sure. But like, I mean, so Creality is trying to improve this. So they have their Ender 3 S1 and their S1 Pro, which actually has an all metal hot end. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's there is no CoreXY. Like people want CoreXY printers. That seems to be based on all the polls I've held. They want a CoreXY. It's like I feel like I know exactly what people want. It's just nobody's making it. And I've heard that, it's just these Chinese companies aren't going to take risks. They're not going to try a new printer design. They're only going to sell something they know will sell. And that's why you don't really see any innovation out of it. But yeah, I mean, if we're able to make a CoreXY printer with a good hot end, good extruder, good firmware, strong build, I think it would sell great. It's just a matter of how much would it cost. But yeah, because nobody's really doing it. Like I said, the Prusa XL looks like to be one of the first that I've seen to do that, but that's $2,000. So.
And the one that you were mentioning earlier, the really expensive one, I forgot the one that you basically could print peak and everything. That one, or what was that one called again?
Vision Miner.
Yeah, because like those ones are great and all, and I bet those prices have come down from, I'm guessing, what they were originally, whatever the Stratoses were. I feel like those were like 20,000 ish. Like you can, those are more affordable, like if you're a corporation, but that's not. Those are where I guess the risks are being taken mostly, but that's not really for us. It's not. No company has tried bringing that down to the consumer market yet.
Yeah, but you just price it out. Like for instance, I still use my CoreXY by SaneSmart, which they for some reason stopped making it, and it's my favorite printer for the price. It was $450, I believe. It's a 300 by 300 by 300 CoreXY, really sturdy, good build volume, build quality, and $450. And I upgraded the hot end extruder to be Hemera, so there's $120, and that's all you need to do. And it's a really good printer, but nothing like that exists. Like so, yeah, we were just trying to think, what if we just built something like the CoreXY, included a Hemera or one of the new Bontecs or whatever on there. We should be able to charge $500 or $600 for, but that just doesn't exist. So.
Yeah, and I also kind of want to read this too, because I've actually had this myself, and thank you, Ken's Counseling Account, for just coming up with great things for me to talk about. But it says right here, when I got my printer, I kept having issues with thermal runaway and heating failures. I spent days trying to chase down the issue. New screw in the thermistor. Then he learned how to compile his own firmware, and others turned out my power supply was set to 110, he set the power supply in the wrong switch.
Yeah, it's yeah, I'm assuming if 110 was wrong or 115 was wrong, he's probably not in America. But yeah, I have to admit I have tried to turn on a printer once before switching it properly, but it just didn't turn on, luckily. But yeah, a lot of the Chinese companies, some of them have gotten it down where they know if they're shipping to America to set it correctly. But the last couple I've gotten actually aren't, and you have to make sure to switch it.
Yeah,
it's definitely an important thing.
I guess we also have another question for you. It is local maker MI, and he says, "What about the Matter Hacker's Pulse?" Very Prusa-ish.
That's a good question. I actually
let's go. Go pull it up, and if you want to screen share it, by all means. But I also see someone saying that the Ender 3 S1 Pro looks pretty good. Oh yeah, to me, I think it looks almost perfect. Actually, that's almost like.
And so I really like the S1, and they've been talking about sending me the S1 Pro, but they haven't yet. Yeah, I mean, it seems to have. Really, I mean, it seems to be a competitor to Prusa, and I really like the way they do their extruder with the Sprite extruder. But so I gave it a rave review. I was really stoked on it. But Tim, he gave a different perspective. TH3D saying how their software is trash, and the power supply is trash, and so I thought it was great, but according he knows a little bit more than me on the software side of stuff.
Well, yeah, and that's something it's something nice to have like you here for, because you do all these printers. You have much more of knowledge when it comes to, I guess, like actual like what's going on with the 3D printed like market and what's going on with the companies that are behind it. Because for most people like me, a lot of people will see, oh, the Ender 3 is cheap. A lot of people have Ender 3s. I'm just going to get an Ender 3. Oh, well, Creality is also. I mean, I like my Creality Ender 3, so I might as well get whatever the next new Creality one is.
Yeah.
And a lot of people will not usually look past that. And things like, Meanwhile power supply, stuff like that, things where they're kind of secretly changing things. Another thing that people, I learned about pretty early on, I think they sort of kind of got better with it, but I've heard some people still getting the same problem, is the old Ender 3s, you used to be able to get warped beds, which you might remember a little more than I do, because I wasn't, 3D printing around when that was a bigger issue. But from what I gathered is, when you have a warped bed, you're just never going to have a good level. It's just always going to be terrible because your bed isn't flat.
Warped beds used to be a big problem. Like, So we at my old print farm, we had Lowellsbot Taz 5s and 3s, and it just seemed after a while, eventually the bed would get messed up, and yeah, it would be a nightmare. So normally what I would do is I take the entire build plate apart and build it back, and somehow that seemed to work. I think when there was too much tension on one of these springs, it would kind of bend the build plate a little bit. But yeah, no, warped beds are a nightmare, and that's yeah, I haven't had any issues lately with printers in that regard, but yeah.
Would glass beds fix that?
Well, I mean, we had glass beds for I think that was one of the first style of build plates, but yeah, I don't know. It's still, it would just be that metal plate that was under the glass would get bent a little bit, and then it wouldn't hold it properly. But yeah, I'm one of the only guys that still uses glass. I actually like glass, but
I like it too, yeah. But I mean, I feel like that'd be a really big issue if it was like PID or PIE, like where it's directly on the metal build plate. Where if you have a little bit of
PEI, I mean, and a lot of so for instance, the Lowellsbot, it was either the Taz 3s or 5s. It would had a PEI sheet, I mean a sticky sheet rather than a actual separate plate, and those were a nightmare because yeah, they would warp easier, and then also you could scratch them really easily.
Yeah, and I also see Ken's counseling couch said, yeah, he set it to 220 by accident and forgot to switch it back to 110. So that was his thing.
Yeah.
But also, I'm looking at it too. Yeah, he's also mentioning about how there's people trying to convert Ender 3s to CoreXYs. Those are
CoreXY.
CoreXY. Yeah, my bad. I think you mistyped that one. But Teddy's here also says he has 2 CoreXYs. Can you explain what the major differences between a CoreXY and versus a Cartesian? So from what I know is a CoreXY, it looks like an Ender 5 for most people, but an Ender 5 is not actually a true CoreXY.
Yeah, and so maybe actually Teddy will explain exactly why CoreXY is better than something like so. Cartesian is, this could be a wrong proper description, but basically the X motor moves the X axis and the Y motor moves the Y axis. They're not they're independent of each other. So that if you look at the Ender 5, there's one belt for the X, and then the X motor moves it back and forth, and then the Y same this way. But CoreXY, they work dependent on each other. So if you want to move if you want to move the X direction, both motors spin because of the way the belt is wrapped around the two motors. And yeah, I mean, yeah, there you go. So CoreXY uses 2 steppers to move the X and Y in tandem, exactly. But I'm not exactly sure why that allows you to print faster, and why people prefer it. So maybe somebody might be able to say that, but I know definitely CoreXY is preferred.
Well, when it comes to the Ender 5 in particular, I know one thing that I definitely notice is, the Ender 3, a very annoying thing that I don't feel like people talk enough is gantry sag. And do you know what gantry sag is, right?
Is that, you mean like the right side of the printer is?
Yeah, it's like when you don't screw in the x-axis, or the x-axis tight enough, and that would mean if you don't do it, that means it'll kind of sag a little bit down. So if on the left side it's nice and the right, it's a normal height, but on the right side it falls a little bit short. So
yeah, that's why I mean the dual lead screws are always going to be better, and I mean the Ender 3S1 has dual lead screws, so that is a benefit to that. Yeah, that. I mean, for instance, that I keep saying, the SainSmart Coreception I have, it's dual lead screws and both have anti-backlash nuts on it. So, and like I said, the whole build was $450, so it's doable. Yeah, yeah. So having the sag is obviously gonna be a problem. And then you look at printers I don't understand why anybody would want the Prusa Mini. I don't know if you see, it doesn't even have a right.
That's the ridiculous one the one lead screw thing, but
it's not just one lead screw. It doesn't even rest on the right side on anything.
Well, let me just show this to everyone. This is basically the Pulse 3D printer. I know nothing about it, but it does look. It has the things that we were kind of just mentioning. It looks like to me.
Yeah,
it almost looks like a Prusa, actually. Now I think about it.
It does. That's what he was saying.
Yeah, that is. What's the price on this thing?
It's 700, I think.
Yeah. Okay. So this is.
Yeah, I mean it's. But even then, it's like I said. I mean, people. It does look like a Prusa for sure. But people want CoreXY from what I see in all the polls I hold. I mean, I don't know what the benefit is to this type of Cartesian setup other than maybe it's cheaper to make, but I'm not sure.
But yeah, let me go pull up the other one. What was it? The I also see it was like I think Creality made that like their own little mini printer too. I forgot what that was. I think at the Ender 2.
Yeah, Ender 2, I think. Yeah.
It's this little adorable thing with like one little lead screw that is basically everything. It is the most. If it works, I guess. But
Well, yeah, I mean, and they're they came out with it because they saw the Prusa Mini. So I mean, they're not going to take any risks of their own. But yeah, I don't know why you'd want that. I mean, obviously you're saving money, but especially like the Prusa Mini, I don't get it.
Yeah, let me pull this up for everyone. Yeah, this is the Prusa Mini. I trust Prusa at least because I know they put out good things.
Yeah.
But I guess this is kind of a Prusa that people can afford, maybe. But like,
even then, I mean, for $400, it's I don't know.
I didn't say it was a great deal, but I said it is a Prusa. But like, yeah, I guess maybe a travel printer, perhaps. It still seems. I don't know. Maybe if you guys have a good use case for it, by all means, please go ahead and tell us.
Let me see if I can share my. Oops, wrong button.
I'll let you share your screen, but. Yeah, no. Someone says they love their S1. They got are printing right now with their Arc. Oh yeah, I would trust me. I would love to have a printer as well. Oh, by the way, you know about Anchor? Have you learned anything about the Anchor printer?
Yeah. So I actually never even watched Uncle Jesse's video, but yeah, it's a Kickstarter, right? And
yeah, I heard about it, and let me go show this. This is what you're talking about.
It was $450 when I got it, so now it says. But either way, it's discontinued. But it was $450, and if you look at this, I mean. It's 300 by 300 by 300. It's got linear rails for the X and Y axis. And I mean, for $450, it was such a beast of a machine. And it's just surprising that I don't know of anybody else who's making something like this, but.
Okay, so yeah, let me read this because Ken's counseling. I mean, this is basically what we're kind of talking about. So this is, I guess, if we were having trouble with CoreXY, I don't know, we're going to be talking about CoreXZ. But it seems like, I guess, CoreXZ is an actual thing.
That's I don't know about it.
Well, so this is something I feel like people don't really understand too. Because I guess this is, I'm thinking people assume that the Ender 5 is a CoreXY, and that's my opinion. This is my, I have no.
Well, yeah, I used to just use CoreXY as a term to describe the build plate going up and down, but no, it's not. It is on how the motors move the belts. Because CoreXZ, if that's a real thing.
But I'll look at it. If you do find it, please share.
Well, I do know. Oh, yeah, I guess it is. I mean, I do know the Voron's. The build plate doesn't move at all, so maybe that's what it's.
Perhaps, yeah. No, so because when I think about it, like the Ender 5, I know will print better than your typical Ender 3. It's just nicer. But I feel like people don't. I guess because most people don't really necessarily have Prusas. Prusas just print really nice. Like everything I've seen print on a Prusa, I don't think I've seen a terrible print on one before. I bet you can do it if you try hard, but like it just seems like Prusas that just work well enough where they don't really even need to go that route. Which I don't know what magic things Prusa must do. I'm guessing it's good quality materials, I guess. But
yeah, and they just test everything before they send it to. They, like I said, they care more. They actually care about customer support and making sure people are happy. Yeah, I know. I'm looking. I think this. So he's talking about the CoreXZ. I'm looking it up right now, the Voron switch wire. I guess I need to do more research on that. I didn't know that was a thing. I do know that, like, so I watched Thomas Sandlatter's Voron build, and it looked like a CoreXY, but the build plate didn't move, so I wasn't exactly sure on how that whole thing worked.
But I see Vin saying he hates Gantry Seg. I hate Gantry Seg. I hate Gantry Seg. Same here. I almost bought a Ender 5 specifically for that reason.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I wanted to get your opinion on this one too, because I've actually gotten this one several times as well. What is your best large printer?
Best large. I mean, like I was saying, the CoreXY. I mean, sorry, the SainSmart Perception is the one I go to when I want to print PLA. I print on that printer. Let's see, big printers.
Because I know about I know about the Ender 5 Plus, and I know about basically the CR10. The only one I could, like, I've heard horrible things about the Ender 5 Plus, and I've also heard incredible things about it. So I just assume it's, your mileage may vary. I'm guessing the best probably large printer you can make or get would be the Prusa XL when that thing comes out. But
oh yeah, well, I mean, and it depends on obviously your price range, but
right, yeah,
like the Solvol printers that are like CR10 clones are good pricing for what they are. Yeah, and CR. I mean, honestly, a 300 by 300 by 400 is the largest printer I've tested, just because I don't have space for anything bigger than that. But
Yeah, no, I'm seeing a lot of people talking about the Anchor one. I mean, the only reason why I would get the Anchor one specifically would just be because I like what Anchor does. I have a bunch of Anchor power banks and stuff, so I'm
Mhm.
assuming they probably make decent stuff. But apparently, I guess Linus Tech Tips also made a video about it too. And
I need to step up my game and watch more videos. I know that I'm pretty sure that was the one Uncle Jesse reviewed, and it was like a paid review, so he was getting some crap for it. But
okay, and also I guess Ken told me to look at Voron switch wire. And I'll guess I'll look that up
yeah, I was
too.
just googling it. Yeah, on my side.
Yeah, you stump Sean. Does that mean I get the extra month free of my OnlyFans? I mean, if you go on Twitch and you get I'll give you a free subscription. How about that? But
Yeah, I can't imagine how terrible your OnlyFans would be.
I mean, it would just be me playing. It's basically the Twitch subs, if anything. But
Bring all your waifu pillows on screen
and we play Fate V or Fate Stay Night, which is it's a very popular series. However, most people forget that its original beginnings was a porn game, so that's what we're playing. But yeah, no, someone's saying here, Creality needs to slow down their shotgun approach of making printers. They're making 300 models of their printers. That's I think
Yeah, no,
leads to a lot of confusion.
their whole $500 to $600 range of printers that were coming out were just, I mean, the Surmoon D1 that I reviewed, and then the Ender 7, and yeah, there was a bunch that were coming out that I'm like, what is the point in these machines? They have the same crappy hot end and extruder. They're just trying to, like, for instance, the Ender 7, they advertise it as like a super fast printer, but I have no idea what makes it super fast.
I'm assuming the cooling, maybe,
I mean,
because
no,
that one had
I
two
mean, it has
fans
good
on, right?
linear, it has linear rails for the, but it's like, I don't know what made it super fast, and it seems to be every manufacturer is like, we could print 200 millimeters per second. It's like, no, you can't. I mean,
Well, we have someone mentioned something about the FL Sun one, and that if you want to print fast, I think Delta is the only way you're really going to do that. But Delta print, or you have your own video about the FL Sun, right? You experience. What was your experience with it?
so I don't have a ton of Delta experience, but I actually really liked it, and then. Once again, I give it to you, and you seem to have issues with it.
Well, no, it prints great. It's just the supports are when you print it that fast, it just seems like the supports will fuse onto like the print. And if you're printing on with great Polymax PLA or PLA or yeah PLA Max, there that one, it is so hard, like you cannot remove it. It is glued on there, and like I broke the wire cutters that you get with every printer, the little
Yeah.
pliers you get. I broke one of those trying to remove the supports from that thing or from one of the high power frames I printed. It's just like, okay, well, I guess my time to buy a new printer. Well, now my fucking pliers are broken, but
It's once again, this is a you problem, not a
yeah,
printer problem. If it's
yeah.
every printer in the world is giving you problems, it's an AG problem.
That's I'll gladly accept that. But yeah, someone's saying part of me just wants for the memes convert my Ender 3 to an Ender 5 with a build volume of about I guess a meter and a full meter for everything. I don't have the money for it, but that'd be fun.
Yeah, I wouldn't even know where the hell you'd start to do that. But.
That would be like a NASA printer. Have you seen those like the ones that they use to print houses where it's like it's like a 3 centimeter layer height or like a
Well, that's the other. I don't understand 3D printed houses at all. It just seems like a marketing thing. I don't know why just building it out of wood wouldn't be easier and cheaper, because you got to lug around a giant machine.
And what material you're printing it out of, because again, if you're making a house out of PLA, remember,
well, like they were making 3D printed homes in Austin, and my buddy was like, you should interview the guy. I'm like, I'm just gonna be saying, what the hell's the point in this?
Oh, that would be a great video. Are you kidding me? That's what?
But I mean, I guess it's in Austin. That's why. I mean, people like to be trendy and say their house is 3D printed.
That video would be amazing. Some of my favorite videos from like SHOT Show or the Forgotten Weapons guys being extremely critical to every single one of the people.
Well, I mean, it's fine if I'm not interviewing the guy.
No, they're interviewing them.
Crapping on the guy.
Well, I mean, I think it would be a good way of seeing someone that actually knows what they're talking about, and then having to, I'm assuming they're used to like the trendy people, like, oh yeah, I just want I got a cool 3D printed house. They don't really think about, anything else about maybe why it's not really that big of a deal or why it's kind of pointless.
Yeah,
it'd be funny to hear.
Saying because contractors can't rip you off with a 3D printed house. Yeah, I mean, it's like the same thing with this whole tiny home movement. It's like, so you mean an RV, like, or a trailer? Like, I don't. Haven't we always had tiny homes?
Well, yeah, the shipping crate homes as well. But
Well, yeah, it's just, but I mean, you could just get a
a
trailer.
shipping crate. Yeah, right.
Or I
But
mean, trailer parks have been around forever. That's just a tiny home park.
but yeah, let's talk about some other things too, while we're at least mentioning some other printer stuff as well. To at least keep it somewhat on topic. So now, one thing I know you aren't as experienced about this, but you're better than I am. What about resin? What are your thoughts about at least how things were going with resin?
I love how the price is coming down. I love how high quality is, but it seems to be more for the non-practical printing side of things, so it doesn't excite me. I mean, I could be wrong. Some people have done practical prints with it. I mean, Hoffman printed one of his lowers in it, which surprised me. Um, yeah, I absolutely hate the cleanup.
Yeah,
I've said this before. I'm on carpet. My office is carpeted, and any sort of splattering or anything is a nightmare. I absolutely. So if I want to print, if I just want something small, a 45-minute, 2-hour print, I spend more time cleaning up afterwards than I do the actual print. So it's I feel like something needs to be done about that to make the cleanup easier. But I mean, you can get an Elegoo 3 for Ender 3 prices, and I mean the quality is unparalleled. It's so high quality, the prints you can get. It's just people have talked about also mixing like
I was going to mention
flexible.
mixing materials. That's the thing that you
Yeah,
can do.
I am not an expert in that regard, but a lot of people have been talking about their own formula where they mix a flexible with a hard tough resin, and they've been getting good results. But I just don't understand how you prevent over curing because, I mean, I guess like I was thinking maybe you can spray it with primer to prevent like UV light from maybe hitting it, but I just feel like over time, as more sunlight hits your part, it's going to over cure and get more and more brittle. But yeah, I like how the prices are coming down. I like how people are trying to. I just don't see a ton of the practical print side of things with it.
And something I kind of want to mention this too, because I think this also goes to a lot of things people will probably ask about too now is slicers.
Yeah,
Slicers on resin. Like,
yeah. Right. I've only used Chi2 box, and it is you have to do manual supports. There's like no way that it's going to auto generate the proper supports. I don't know. They have a Chi2 box paid version. Maybe that's better at it, but yeah, I literally have to. I watched somebody else's video. I think his name is 3D Printing Pro on YouTube to figure out exactly the right support settings. They work great, but it's like on a complex model, I have to go to each section and click where it should have support structures. But yeah, the slicer obviously Cura is way more user intuitive, maybe just because I use it all the time. But yeah, it's the support settings that are normally the most annoying with slicing and resin.
yeah, because I mean, the one that you gave me, the one that was a Kickstarter one, the Unity, or I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
That one uses its own proprietary slicer as well. And I was trying to get that to figure out how that thing works, and it's just like it's not Cura. It's not Cura, and it's a little more complicated. I don't know. Resin printing just seems a bit more. There's a lot more to it. I feel like than your typical FM or FDM one. And
Yeah, it's I mean, I don't know if I'm just coming at it because I'm just so used to Cura. It feels that way too. But anybody who's brand new to FDM printing and opens up Cura gets confused as well. So it just might be a got to get used to it. The Chi2 box, I did eventually. Yeah, after using it a few times, it got easier. It's just time consuming because you have to manually click where you want each of your supports to be.
I also see someone mentioning people use resin printer for anything for things other than Warhammer. I'm shocked by it too. Trust me.
Well,
But
I mean, and it is good if you're like, for instance, if you have an Etsy store, it's great. Or if you're trying to do jewelry or
yeah, no, the figurines that you can make on those things are almost like they look incredible. Like,
yeah, no, and the print. So, yeah, the prints that I've done on it are phenomenal. We make these little Elegoo aliens that my Kong designed for Elegoo, and they come out. They look exactly like those old machines you put quarters in and get those little toys and eggs. They look exactly like it. I mean, the detail is amazing. So it's great for something really small. Jewelry is a great example of people actually making money with their resin printers.
and something didn't you do this where you were or for your or Vin's like his ASP shield thing? Didn't you resin print the windows
And
for it?
yeah, and so I resin printed the clear windows for the ASP model. So I mean, so that I was just trying to think of a way to use a resin printer for the gun part. But yeah, so you can print near perfect clear parts. So you can print with a transparent resin. Once you hit it with UV, it will get cloudy, but you can hit it with some glossy spray paint, a glossy coat of spray paint, and it brings it back. And yeah, you can get something that is similar to glass when it comes to how easy it is to see through it. So, there, like, when it comes to looks, there's so many things you can do with resin. It's just, I mean, like I said, though, Hoffman got printed as lower and it worked. So there might be ways to do it. It's just, I absolutely hate using resin. I'm actually getting the new Elegoo Saturn that's not out yet to review. And
Nice
yeah,
flex.
we'll see. It's still just the cleanup process. Until that's fixed, I'm not going to like it.
Well, yeah, no, I've seen some things where people are mentioning about. I think Elegoo sells their own. I think you have the cleanup thing where it's like the sonicator. They come, or they have like a special sonicator with like you're supposed to put isopropyl alcohol in.
Yeah, so I mean, it doesn't really help with cleaning. I mean, it helps you with like I guess cleaning off. I mean, it does help a little bit. You can put the whole build plate in the isopropyl alcohol, but and then it cures the part. But I'm talking about like when you're done printing, you need to empty out your resin vat and back into the bottle, and then you need to clean the entire resin vat, and that is just, I mean, you need so much isopropyl alcohol to clean a large vat,
And I see,
and
yeah, okay.
yeah, it's no fun.
I see someone else mentioning, would you be able to resin print an aquarium? But that'd be a big aquarium, or be a small aquarium, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing about resin printers. They're generally much smaller. I mean, there's the LU Jupiter, which is pretty big, but it's also a pricey printer. So, I mean, when I say pretty big, it's I don't know, and maybe it's an Ender 3 build volume. That would be really big for a resin printer.
Okay, it looks like also now my Odyssey chat's come up. Someone's asking about the new Prusa printer. I think that's the Prusa XL. And then shout out to PrinterBot. Okay, I'm glad to hear. Glad to see the Odyssey chats where Odyssey's back to working. But yeah, I at least wanted to mention this specifically about because I was wanting to make one of those Halo ODST air helmets, and I feel like if you're some of the cosplay people would probably find this more interesting. But the challenge with making those helmets are always like you need a visor or something, and being able to use resin for that would be pretty cool, I would say.
Yeah, no, that is true. It's just a matter of how big the visor is, because if it's like a helmet size, then that you would need a pretty big resin printer to print something like that. And the other thing is resin, the material itself isn't super cheap. I mean, it's not bad, but you can get.
And I don't know enough about it to really figure out. Also, let me go ahead and read this chat, then I'll mention something that someone mentioned earlier. Unhero-like, now that the era paid for slicer is over, how will companies like Simplify 3D survive? Also, Hoffman's a wizard. That's how his resin lower worked.
He's definitely a wizard. And thank you for donating to AGCast's waifu fund. But
hey, I'm going to use this for a camera. Okay, I'm going to buy a slow-mo camera.
So you can film yourself and your waifu.
Yes. Yes.
So Simplify. Yeah. No, I hold a poll for each one of my books, or actually just the last two editions of what's your prefer. I go through everything. It's just a kind of poll the community, and I include it in the book. Simplify 3D, it was like 3% of people that I polled use Simplify 3D still, which is crazy because when I got into 3D printing, I mean, it was probably 75% of people use Simplify 3D, but it's weird. I talked to a few people. I think it was Hoffman I was talking to who still uses it. Maybe.
No, Yeezy also told me to do that for his because I kept getting weird layer shifts with his Mac Daddy, and he was telling me, "Oh yeah, try and Simplify 3D. That'll fix a lot of your problems."
Yeah, but I don't exactly know why. I think they told me why. It was either Hoffman or Tim that said he still uses it. I can't recall. But yeah, they won't survive. I mean, especially because they don't do updates. Maybe a paid version of Simplify that actually gave updates could survive. But it's like, why when Cura and Prusa Slicer and all, and I've heard a lot of good things about Idea Maker and there's one other one, Super Slicer, I think was it. There's a few that I haven't even tried yet that a lot of people are liking as well.
Yeah, by the way, Ken, I saw Tech Gun's thing. That was what I was going to read after the super chat came in. I know, but I have to give. He gave me $5, so of course I have to give it to him. All right, but yes, Tech Guns wanted me to ask about. Or I think this is a good thing to also talk about as well. Is direct drive versus Bowden. Now you were mentioning about the Chimera, and I think that's probably. I feel like you definitely could talk about this more than I can.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Bowden printers at all. I mean, they do allow for a lighter carriage, but I'm not printing at insane speeds anyway, so I wouldn't enjoy any benefit from faster print times with the Bowden. But yeah, no, direct drive, the shorter the distance between the extruder and the hot end, the more reliable extrusion you'll get, and you'll be able to print softer materials. So the Hemera was the first that literally made the hot end and the extruder one unit. I mean, basically one unit, where the gears feed right into the hot end. And that means that you can print. So Ninja Flex was always it was one of the first flexible materials that was really, widely used by makers. But you had to print it at like 20 millimeters per second. And even then it was really tough. I could print Ninja Flex on a Hemera, same speeds as PLA. I max out at like 70 or 80 millimeters per second just because I don't want to print faster than that. But the problem is something like the Hemera has a lot of weight. That stepper motor is heavy. And so other companies have come out with their own versions since the Hemera that reduce the weight a lot. Like I really like the BQH2, so BIQUH2 extruder and hot end. It's very similar to the Hemera, but like a pancake stepper motor. And it's super light, and I have been using it for probably 2 years, and I use it all the time, and it's never given me any issues. And then there's another one by Bondtech that they make their own version of it as well. So yeah, I mean it's a really light setup, and it's an all metal hot end, and I recommend that print. I mean, it's only $84 for it, and it's really easy to mount. And so that's something I don't know why they do that. If you look at the connection port for the stepper, it's on the bottom. They did that when the one they shipped to me. You literally just take the step off and you turn it 180 degrees.
Yeah, I was about to say that seems like a terrible idea.
I don't know. I don't know why they do that. All I did was flip the stepper motor 180 degrees, and it's the exact same. But yeah, you have to get creative though when you do this with cooling, because the hot end is so close to the stepper motor and the extruder itself that you gotta. That's why Hemera, they were called Hermes. They got sued E3D because somebody else is using the trademark Hermes, but it was called Hermes because of the design on the heatsink. They had to get really creative with how to blow air through it.
I think it's the same thing as this one, right? Or
it's different than them. It looks like the Hermes. I think that's why they called it that. Was I think maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, but yeah.
Oh, I see it. Let me pull it up again. Yeah, I'll pull it up for everyone.
So I'm trying to think what the Hermes symbol is. Maybe I'm just going crazy.
But I also want to mention this too, because this is actually one of the first upgrades I did. This is actually from your Ender 3 V2 video. It was specifically the direct drive or the Bondtech geared extruder, where you were mentioning about how for the Ender 3, something that you didn't like was it's like simple, basically the Ender 3 like gear extruder, single gear extruder they have, which I mean it is kind of nice that it has a little wheel on the top. But you mentioned that you got a Bondtech BMG extruder for that one, or dual geared extruder. And
the Bondtech BMG was the first commercially available dual drive extruder. So I mean, people aren't used to extruders or know how it works. The cheap extruders and the way they were made forever was there's one gear with teeth on it, and it pushed against a free rolling bearing, and so only one side of your filament is being actually gripped and moved. The other side is just spinning freely, and you get a much more precise extrusion when you're gripping from both sides, and both sides are geared, so they're spinning at the same rate and gripping the filament at the same time. And so this was the first commercially available version of that, and that's why I raved about it for so long. But then other companies started making their own versions of it. So like the Hemera is a dual drive as well, and the same thing with the BQH2. There's a lot. I mean, even the new Creality S1, Ender 3 S1 that has a dual drive geared extruder. And I really harp on extruders. I think they're really important because having precise extrusion is really important. And then on top of that, I like to print in flexible materials, and it's so much easier to print in flexible materials when you're gripping it strong and you have a gear ratio, especially in a direct drive fashion.
Yeah, and this is one of the things I had to. This is why I actually had to learn firmware, was because this thing, usually the way this works is you're going to have to change your e-steps from like whatever it is normally on an Ender 3. I think it's like 90 something. And on
It's
the
whenever you use a gear ratio, yeah,
right.
because you're reducing the torque, but it's mechanical advantage, so you got to spin it more.
Right, and so this was a thing that I noticed for sure, was because the original Ender 3 V2 on the, I think the Ender 3, you could just go up to what I think 415, which is what I think they tell you to start off with. But on like the original Ender 3 V2, I couldn't get it. I think it maxed out at like 200 something. So you would have to
Oh, on the touchscreen, yeah.
yeah.
I
So
mean, on the screen, yeah.
on the only way you could actually get it to go to the proper way to actually use this thing, because if it's not around 400, it's just going to horribly under extrude everything you try. It will
Yeah,
not
you
work.
actually can through. Luckily, you don't have to flash firmware for e-steps.
You can
Luckily,
use G code. I know what you're I
right.
know what you're gonna say. You can G code it, right?
Yeah. So unlike max temp, which you can't do through G code, you have to do it in the firmware. E-steps you actually can just it's like a G92. I can't. Okay, I have it in my.
I have it. Yeah, I have it.
Yeah.
I actually have a notepad on
It's
that
so
because that's
funny.
what my friend told me about.
That's the reason I keep my book next to me. I wrote the thing. I can't remember G code commands. I don't know if it's just the way my brain works. I literally every time I do e-steps, every time I look up the G code commands in my book just because I can't remember it. Yeah.
And I think it's something that people should definitely know about, because this is one of the nicer things too that you kind of feel like you glossed over a little bit, was you can print on flexibles with like you can an Ender 3 normally cannot print flexibles, but with
At
a
least
gear
soft,
extruder,
at least soft flexibles, yeah.
right? But with the geared extruder, it makes it much easier.
Yeah, and a geared extruder, and the shorter the gap between your extruder and your hot end, the easier flexibles are going to be. And that's why you can print flexibles so good on something like the Hemera or the BQ, because it's the problem you get is you get bunching up of the filament. So if you're feeding and it's not coming out of the hot end perfectly, it'll like bunch up the flexible and then it's not going to print right. So like something like the Hemera, there is no distance for the you can't have bunching up. There's no like room for it whatsoever.
And I think
That's why you're able to print. I mean, you can print flexibles as fast as PLA.
no, I think so. This is also mentions what someone is also asking right here, because I'm pretty sure you're aware of it as well as I am. Is the Ender 3 upgrade kit that you can get from MicroSwiss, the one I think most people will use, where it just essentially looks like it is they move the extruder directly in front, like just directly next to the actual hot end, and it. If you were telling me about how the extra weight from the Chimera becomes a little bit of an issue, I can only imagine how that would be for the full MicroSwiss hot end.
Well, they have. I mean, Microsoft just came out with their new
Oh, they did.
extruder. Yeah, so MicroSwiss is actually really great. I've only used them once, but they make it super easy for you to swap on an Ender 3 or any Ender printer because it uses the same screw holes as your standard hot end on the Ender 3. So it's literally just take the heater and the thermistor out and put it on this and it'll work. But yeah, no, that's actually not the new one.
This is the old one that I'm talking about. But yeah, I'll go find the new one in a second.
But even that has a pancake stepper on it, so it's not going to increase the weight a ton. So like the Hemera, I guarantee you, is heavier than that.
Oh, really? Okay.
The Hemera is very heavy, so that's why I like something like the BQ. And honestly, Creality did a really good job on theirs. If you look at the Sprite extruder on their new S1 and their S1 Pro, it's a really lightweight dual drive geared. It's very similar setup to like the Hemera. I'm sure the Hemera is better, but they did a really good job on that. That was always my number one critique on all Creality machines is like you get this crappy plastic extruder that sucks, and now they seem to have fixed that. But yeah, this is the new one that they just released, and I've never seen an extruder do that before. With that,
it makes sense, but yeah, because you could see it's not all right. So for those of you guys, I guess, yeah, the old ones were kind of just directly, just placed against the gear. This one's kind of, I guess, it's at a 90-degree angle, so it's a perpendicular stepper motor.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what the gear ratio would be on that. But yeah, I mean, it definitely looks intriguing, and I'd like to check it out. Click on the first picture again real quick. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it looks to be really cool. Yeah, it seems to have everything I'd care about. I've just never used it.
It doesn't look dual gear. Oh, actually, no, it's 3-to-1 gear ratio. Okay, because the other one I think was just a 1-to-1 gear ratio.
Well, and it looks like it has dual drive. I can't.
Yeah, I can't really get it. Maybe if they would love to send one over, that'd be
Yeah,
nice.
dual gear drive. It says that right there. Hardened
Yeah.
steel, precision cut, dual gear drive. So yeah, no, that looks really interesting. And my assumption is if Microsoft is following with their past stuff, it should be easy to put on a Creality machine. But I don't see that in their description. But that was one thing I would always suggest Microswiss for, was you don't have to, come up with your own unique mounts. They normally make it pretty easy to put on enders.
And I want you to go ahead and be sure to mention this one. You should create a G-code cheat sheet.
Yeah, I mean, I do Google it sometimes, but it's it's so weird. I have done E-steps hundreds and hundreds of times, but for some reason my brain just can't remember. That's why I think I suck at coding and Marlin. I can't it's like trying to read a different language.
I was going to tell you. I was going to tell you could just use I wanted you to say your book, but that would have. But yeah, I guess
I do use my book. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought you could say the cheat sheet was your book, but that it doesn't matter. It's okay. But this is
you know what? I may end up having to buy that just because that looks to be a really cool setup. I wonder how it works. But
yeah, no, be sure to tell me about, because I think a lot of for something that I have experienced is a lot of the micro Swiss clones out there. And maybe you also have experienced this too, but at least for me, as someone who's stingy as can be, a lot of the cheap micro Swiss clones are terrible. They are just bad. They will clog. They will jam. The only good one I've got was like someone from AliExpress. I think it's called the Mellow, and that was like with AliExpress ones. One might be good, one might be really, really bad. Quality control is not really their best strong suit, but you can get good ones every now and then.
Well, it's funny you said it. So we were talking about my patent conversation. Even though I'm against patents, I recommend people always buy name brand. I mean, unless the brand we're talking about has bad reviews, but in general, the people with the name brand care about their product more than some knockoff. And I mean, this is particularly true with nozzles. I mean, that is the one thing. If you're gonna buy anything knockoff, it should not be your nozzle, because nozzles are the tolerance. You're buying something 0.4 millimeters. I mean, if you're just a few microns off on diameter, then your prints aren't going to be as good a quality.
Oh yeah, we should definitely mention if you have really bad print, you should always also, a good thing to also check is the nozzle too.
Yeah, I mean, and that's it. I don't like that. So for instance, one of the reasons I don't like the new Revo hot end by E3D is they don't have hardened steel options, at least that I know of yet. And I hate printing with brass, because brass nozzles, I mean, even if you're just printing PLA, after a month or two, if you change your nozzle, you'll probably see an improvement in quality in your prints. Brass nozzles really do wear out. They're not abrasive resistant at all. And I try to only use hardened steel nozzles for all my printers, just because those do wear out over time. But I mean, you got a lot longer period of time before you got to worry about it. So yeah, if you're having print quality issues and you're like, this is the same G code I printed 2 months ago and it printed great, try swapping your nozzle and make sure you buy name brand. I mean, you could buy brass. It's just you're going to have to replace them a lot more often. And it's not one of those things where you just know, oh, now is the time to replace your nozzle. It's just going to be slowly your parts are not going to be as good a quality.
Yeah, and that's one of those things where I've experienced that myself, of the micro Swiss, they might be like that. The price on this, it's $119. It might be expensive, but one thing I do know for a fact is micro Swiss stuff is good and it will work. Like, their nozzles are good. Like, they are one of the better ones you can definitely use for anything like for Creality stuff. That I don't know what the type of hot end is, but that's the type of, I forgot what the name is.
Yeah, and when you're saying 120, I mean, but you get an extruder and a hot end. Their hot ends are like $60, I think, by themselves. So.
And they are pretty good. I everyone I know that's used it usually says those are pretty good. So, let me also.
Somebody was asking what grease. So I've been using the same stuff as I used as my old work. Let me see if I can grab it. I don't know if this is the best, but this is what my old work was using. So I just buy this white lithium grease.
Yeah, I got some white lithium grease, but I think it's a different brand from that.
So I don't know. There might be a better one, but I just got used to using this. So.
And let's go ahead and mention this too then. So, right here about what hardened steel are. So for hardened steel, you have to print, or you have to raise up your printer temperature to compensate with the differences in thermal expansion.
So I mean, I actually don't know if that's necessarily true. Let me see. If you have to print temperatures to compensate for the difference in the thermal characteristics of brass. No, I mean, I don't No, I haven't had any issues in that regard. I mean, I just reviewed the diamond tip nozzle, and that has like really high thermal conductivity. I think that's the right terminology. I'm not an engineer. I always say that. Whenever there's an engineering term, I might get that wrong. But and yeah, I mean, I haven't had to change print temperatures. You might have to get a new PID settings. That you might need to do.
PID tuning is a fantastic thing. Yeah.
So that your printer is holding the temperature properly, but I don't think that you need to change the actual print temperatures while you're printing between nozzles.
Yeah, and I guess let me go get this one because I know from my experience, I've used was it nickel or the nickel plated ones or nickel plated brass or is it nickel plated brass? I think it's the one that it's what they use for a lot of the micro Swiss ones. They sell one that's hardened steel, and then I think they sell one that's nickel. And that one, the way they say that is, I think it has much better thermal conductivity than steel, and it's better than brass. But it also has, or it's a lot more. It's like I forgot what it's static friction coefficient is very very low, to the point where it doesn't. It's much more, I guess, abrasive resistant compared to your typical brass. I've used that a lot. It does. I mean, I know for a fact I'm able to print with nylon copier and like glow in the dark filaments, and it doesn't destroy the nozzle after a couple of the prints. So that's
and for anybody wondering, my favorite nozzle is E3D's Nozzle X. It's like hardened steel, but they put like a coating on it so that it helps to feed filaments smoother. I don't know. They are expensive. I think they're $25 for one nozzle. But that's the one I've kind of standardized to, other than the diamond tip ones that I was just sent. So because I might as well keep those on. But the Nozzle X, and then they're coming out with a new nozzle called Obsidian, but with an X instead of the S. And that looks very interesting as well. But like I said, they have their new Revo hot end, and until they come out with a hardened steel or Nozzle X version for the Revo, I'm not actually using the Revo hot end.
I want to at least also touch on this too, because I think this is another big thing. Because I mean, now that we're talking about micro Swiss hot ends, we might as well also talk about the other major upgrades people do as well. What are in your experience? What do you think is the best auto bed leveling system?
Oh, well, I mean,
what do you think is the best bed leveling system in general?
Yeah, it's so funny. I so rarely use bed leveling. I don't know if it's just I got used to it. So first of all, no matter what, if you get a bed leveler, you should still level your bed without using the bed leveler. It should just be compensating for minor variations. You don't want to have like one side of your bed all warped and then you have to overcompensate with the bed leveler. So try to get your bed as level as possible before you use a bed leveler. But I mean, it's hard to beat the BL Touch. I mean, it's I think the most cost effective. And then Timothy, the TH3D's Easy Able uses it's like an optical sensor instead of a mechanical one. It's supposed to be more precise, but I mean, to be honest, the BL Touches work just fine. But like I said, I'm more of a visual inspector. Like as long as my bed doesn't have warps or divots, I don't really even care that much about bed levelers. But yeah, the BL Touch is probably the easiest to install on a new machine.
Yeah, no, for me, the first thing the main reason why I got mine was because I had gantry sag and I didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know it was gantry sag to begin with. But every single time I tried to print anything, I would always end up having like the right side of my bed would always just have to be just way too, or I would have to like level it such a degree where it was almost just impossible. And I thought, okay, if I get a BL Touch, it will fix this. I hope.
Yeah, and adding a second lead screw isn't too expensive. I don't believe. I think you can do it for like $50 or $60 total with buying a kit. I know it's extra money, but that is a good upgrade to do, is having a second lead screw if your printer doesn't have one. It literally just is a stepper motor, a second lead screw, and a way to attach it to the frame. And then the cable, usually you get, I think when you buy it for like a Creality machine, you get like a split cable, because I don't even know if there's two Z stepper inputs on the board. If there isn't, then I remember my old CR10, I added a second lead screw, and it just took the 1Z lead screw one and split it into two. But yeah, dual lead screws are definitely, yeah, there you go. I've seen dual lead screw kits on Amazon for $35 to $40. That is a good upgrade, and it will prevent the sag. And then I also think a good upgrade on top of that is just anti-backlash nuts, which prevent though, especially if you're using a heavy extruder, like if you put a Hemera on your Ender 3, you know, it prevents the weight from dropping the carriage, you know, just from, yeah, you guess what I'm trying to say. So like first, if your ever stepper is disabled, you shouldn't be able to easily push down the Z-axis when you have anti-backlash nuts, because it prevents that from happening.
Yeah, my favorite I've seen so far has also been, I think the Gyre's. He has one that also has, I think, mesh bed leveling. So on top of that, you can also, when it does the auto bed leveling thing, you can go individually in the firmware specifically to also just fine tune that too. So it actually, even if it's not, or once you get the auto bed level, you can even like fine tune that just so it's even better. Which that is something I really.
I'm also excited. I'm excited to try out. I mentioned to you, and I put on Twitter today that
I was going to go mention that too as well. The thing we're going to talk about, we can tie this back to the original where we see 3D printers going. So
well, I'm getting sent this. So
you want to screen share it?
Yeah, let me find. I don't even remember what the website is. Hold on.
Because yeah, I want to talk about that too, because I think a lot of people will find that amazing. Because I think another thing people are going to say is, "What's the best? What do you think is going to be the best printer out there?"
I have a feeling this thing is going to be like, they don't have a price. I wouldn't be surprised if it's like $5,000. So I'm not sure what they're doing on it. Let me see. Let me pull it up. Bamboo Lab, with a U for the bamboo. Let me see. I will cast my screen.
But yeah, this is something I think is going to be a very, very. When I think about what's going to be in the world of only Ender 3 clones and Ender 5 clones, I guess, I think this would be the next big one.
Yeah, so I'm getting sent this. I'm really excited about it. First of all, I brought it up because for a specific reason, but it has, you know, I think it does like a palette. If you guys have ever used or seen a palette, I reviewed it once back. So it's still one extruder, but I think it like snips and blends the material together in a certain pattern, like the palette. I think that's how it's able to do the multi-material or multicolor. But the reason I was bringing it up was because they have LiDAR, which I've never thought to be used. I think, is this the... Yeah, they have LiDAR that measures the build plate for bed leveling. And I think that's a pretty cool application for LiDAR for 3D printing. I always thought LiDAR would be cool for 3D scanning, but I don't know if it actually would work like that, because like the new iPhones have LiDAR, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, you want to go back to that thing, because let's talk about at least what this printer has, because we're talking about, you know, no one's really taking any risk with printing.
Yeah.
So is this one IDEX too, or is this not?
No. So that's what I was saying. It's a single extruder hot end, but I think, yeah, if anybody has seen the palette, here, I'll show you guys real quick. I reviewed the palette 2S. It's a little annoying, but I don't know if there's 2 L's or not. Don't judge me.
Don't worry, I can't spell either.
Okay, there we go. This is the one I reviewed. I think they might even have a 3 now. But yeah, I think they do have a 3. Of course, there's no description on here. But basically, let me see if there's a better picture that I can show people about. I think this is what this printer is doing. Where, yeah, they have a palette 3 now. It splices different filaments together. See right here. So you feed in the filaments into here. So this one could take 8. The one I did was 4.
Holy crap. Okay.
It goes through the splice core. It cuts the material at the right spot and splices the 2 materials together through a heat core right here. And then it feeds out to your printer. And you use their own slicer to... It tells your printer... It tells this exactly when to do it in your print. So you can have multicolored or multi-material prints by using one extruder. I had a lot of issues with multi-material because the splicing, it was really hard to get the materials to stick together. You really had to hone it in. So I'm not sure how this printer is going to do it, but I think that's what this is.
Yeah, that to me looks like it's almost getting close to the point of like an actual, like, when I think about what I want 3D printers to be like, I want it to eventually get to the level of 2D printers. Of, you don't really question how 2D printers work anymore. You just put in,
except for they give you issues too.
Well, you're right, but eventually, you know, it would be nice just to put in all the colors you want, and then you can just kind of get something like this, where it's, I guess, you can do multicolor easier, and then, you know, it just seems like this printer that you're showing, or I'm guessing it's a Kickstarter.
But yeah, so that's the thing. I'm not going to normally review Kickstarters, but they seem to be trying to do a lot. So first of all metal hot end, hardened nozzle come in stock. It's got a dual drive geared extruder stock. And then on top of that, it has a heated chamber that can get to 60 degrees Celsius. Not hot enough for, but I mean, it'll hopefully be able to print polycarbonate. And then, an even higher temp hot heated build plate. Yeah, so I mean, they're trying to do a lot of stuff in here. Then the LiDAR, and then there's another thing they do as well. I'm trying to remember. Oh yeah, right here. Then they also have AI inspect the first layer to make sure that it's going well as well.
And that is one of the most annoying things too, if everyone's probably printed here before, they know how important the first layer is, and that's one of the things most people will always watch for. If you can just have it do it for you, and if the detection is good enough to the point where it actually does work and it works well, I think that'd be great. Like, that would be a huge thing.
Yeah, and I interviewed 3DQ recently for anybody who wants to learn more about AI detection on 3D prints. This company is not using them, but they're getting really good at just using a basic Pi camera and looking at your print and then being able to tell that it's failing or having an issue. Spaghetti Detective is another one that does that, but I think, it's another few years of development and AI learning. It could get to the point where, something like my book gets more and more out of, you could get to the point where the camera could see over extrusion and then change your flow rate on the fly. It could make it so, literally the issue that you're having is changed on the fly. Obviously, it can't fix a layer shift, but, a lot of stuff can be fixed on the fly once the AI gets really good. Then they even have vibration compensation for, linear advance and all that sort of stuff.
And when I see this, I think this is ideal. When I recommend things for printers, I usually will just tell, if I know things about the person, I will usually just say, oh yeah, just get a Prusa. I know you're not going to want to deal with the whole tinkering aspect of it. You just want something to work here. Just get something like this. That printer looks like that would be the next big thing, if anything.
We'll see. I mean, like I said, I'm really fearful on what the price is going to be. So
right,
and then on top of that, I always say Kickstarters. I'm basically going to tell people, avoid Kickstarters. I don't want you to lose your money because of me. And but they are saying that they're going to send me a production unit that's not beta, which is a big deal. So we'll see, though. We'll see. Yeah, I'm just excited to check it out and talk about the technology more so than tell people to buy it. But
right, no, I think that, if anything, to tie it all back to the wonderful initiative thing that we were talking, that supposedly was the initial, or the initial point of all of this, was because it really, I think that is the one benefit of the whole, I guess, trying to make people use 3D printers more and all these big companies doing it, is eventually they're going to need to make these type of things, because this is this type of stuff that really you would want or things like bad first layers are not things that's time lost for your corporation. You don't want that. So if you can have an AI detect that for you ahead of time, well, now you save money. So then if these companies start pushing this to be forced into all these new printers, that's a good thing. That's a net positive for everyone.
Yeah, and it really is just a matter of time. I mean, it's software learning. Like, for instance, the 3DQ guys I was talking to, they need, they need to see a ton of failures to be able to recognize failures. It's, machine learning. And so it's really one of those things where over time it's going to get better and better and better. And, he's able to do it with a basic Pi camera, which is, terrible megapixels. And so, I envision a future where maybe, cameras are getting cheaper and higher quality all the time. So maybe you have this 4K camera aimed right at your nozzle, and it's just able to detect the most minor amount of blobbing or the most minor amount of ghosting or something, and just compensate on the fly with your accelerations or flow rates. So yeah, I mean, it definitely is cool to think about what the future is, because I feel like the last few years have been pretty stagnant on printers. It's just all Ender 3 clones.
And I think that's the big thing. That's the one thing I can hope of this whole thing, or at least pushing companies to use 3D printers, is that we might, fingers crossed, we might be able to see things that are new. We might be able to see a lot of these advancements like this now start to get pushed into more printers, because more companies will see, okay, well, this stuff actually does kind of work. Well, maybe now things like places like Creality might actually feel like, well, this isn't as much of a risk anymore. Now
exactly. So yeah, no, it's going to take companies like this to do it, and then Creality will come out with it in 3 years for half the price, because they're not going to sell it until they know there's a market for it.
And I see someone mentioning something too, because I figured this will be a good way to kind of end this off too, is, someone's mentioning about, I kind of want to talk about two things, at least this printer, and then I guess about Pi or Raspberry Pi things. But has anyone seen someone use a belt printer for GATS yet? Considering my Amigo Grande, I think it would be or could be making plastic M1. Or I think we can be making plastic M1 Grands.
Yeah,
You have a belt printer.
Yeah, I actually have two belt printers. I have the Sane Smart belt and then the Creality belt printer. I rarely use them, but the issue is the direction of the layer lines. So it prints at a 45-degree angle, and these guns are designed to be printed in a certain orientation for the best strength. And I'm not sure if changing the orientation on how it's being printed will affect the strength of the part. But yeah, I've thought about you could definitely print something like a buttstock, like a really long buttstock, or
there's one guy, the Australian dude, that made the full Daedric sword from Skyrim.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and obviously cosplay is really cool. I printed, I'm not into cosplay, but I printed. I got hired by. I have a video on it by Team 17. They make the Worms games, and they make. They made this game called oh my god, I already forgot the name of the game.
Naruto Boy?
They sponsored me for it.
It's a Naruto Boy?
What's it called?
Narita Boy or something like that?
Narita Boy. There you go.
Yeah.
And it's actually a really fun game. I just blanked on the name. They had me build the sword that's used in their game, and life size, and so it was a 3-foot long sword, and I was able to print it perfectly on the belt printer. It's just I'd be afraid of the layer directions for guns.
Well, yeah, no, that was something. I mean, Chairman Juan prints all of his guns in 45-degree angles as well, so it could be.
Well, he's
crazy, right? If Vin's still here, he'll be very upset. Yeah. Maybe he'll let us know about that. But yeah, no, I think the belt printer was the only other big, I guess, innovation we saw.
The belt printer, and then I feel like, and then IDEX is also a pretty big thing.
Quiddy, I think, has been doing some pretty cool things too.
Or Chi, I think is how you
Chidi.
Okay. But yeah, they. I wasn't a big fan of the one I just reviewed for the price, but they at least are doing their own thing, unlike every other Chinese company. They're actually trying stuff, which is to be applauded. It's an actively heated printer. It's the first one I've ever reviewed that actually actively heats the chamber. So they should be applauded for trying new stuff. That's definitely for sure.
Yeah, no, that would be, or I could print an Adidas FGC9 like some Slav we all know. Well, yeah, no, I would rather use an IDEX. I think I would much rather use an IDEX over any. Trust me, the posit layer height filament, it works. And for smaller things, it's not that big of a deal if you have to reprint it. When it's like a 5-day print and it fails in day 4, you get very upset. There's a reason why. There's a reason why I haven't tried reprinting it again, because I already did, and it failed, and I was very upset because I used polymer.
Yeah, so I'm going to be printing that for him on that new Sobol printer that I'm reviewing.
I will give you the filament, and hey, you can show that in your review. I think that'd be cool.
Yeah.
I'll buy the filament. I will just ship it to you directly. How about that?
So nobody has any spicy questions for me? You tweeted out asking,
I said with money, but I guess, yeah. No, does anyone want to ask his opinions? Oh, want to show your picture, the picture you have next to you, your true libertarian card?
Oh, well, it's actually behind my printers now because I got that new rack.
But you want to say it? Want to say what it is?
What, just with Ron Paul?
Yeah, pull it out. Come on, I know everyone wants to see it.
Let me see. I'll see if I can find my most recent one. Yeah, I every time I meet Ron Paul, I try to get a new picture where I hold the previous picture of us. So my goal is to get a picture and a picture and a picture, continuously. And I've only done it 3 times, but let me see if I have Ron Paul's name saved in my Google Photos. I don't. Yeah, I'm not sure how I'm going to find it, but.
Well, allow me to ask you this question because someone's asking this one. I can't pronounce her name, but I will go with this. Ass or tits? Are you an ass man or are you a tit man?
Face is most important to me. But
well, at least you didn't say personality, so I'll give you that. That's a reasonable one.
Between those two, I'm probably more tits.
I'm more of an ass man, but okay, that's good.
Yeah, you would be.
Ron Paul Revolution.
Yeah.
What is that supposed to mean? But
I still have the bumper sticker on my old car.
Well, I was too young for that, but I know my brother liked Ron Paul when he was there. He was running, and I guess we have. While you do find the picture, let me go ask you this actual serious question, somewhat of how legit is Polyterra PLA Plus?
Yeah, it's not good enough for guns.
Yeah,
they even say that I think It's just slightly stronger than their Polyterra, but definitely not good for our application. You want to use the regular PLA Pro or the Polymax, one of those two.
Yeah, I see. Pull it out. Everyone wants to see. It's not the first time I've used that phrase today. Probably not. Yes.
Yeah.
Although Ken, you watch the Ricada streams. You can ask the question that I know that you might want to ask. But I will say,
Serenity is saying we need a Texas Makers match. I agree. I'm definitely not the guy to do it, but I've talked to Control Pew. He definitely wants to hold his own event. The thing is, it'd probably be in Florida, is my guess for that. But I was telling him, like, you can fund. You just have 4 events a year in different states, and I think it'd do really well. There's obviously a demand for it, and people trust Control Pew. And
well, I mean, I heard someone also mention this to me too. I don't remember what stream it was, but someone said, "Well, if you don't know, Waco, the Waco Branch Davidians are still in Waco, and it would be very funny if there were the next Makers match. Yeah, the next Maker match be inside the Branch Davidians compound. Yeah. I think that would be pretty funny. Oh, okay. So
Teddy is saying Ron Paul could have saved our country. It's like I actually think it might have been worse just because he would have let everything fail. Like he would have let everything collapse, and then he would have been blamed for it all. And so I actually don't know. There is an argument to be made that you want this whole thing to collapse on somebody else's watch so we can come in with the solution. But
well, I mean, Ron Paul can now come in and save the day, saving the inflation, runaway inflation bring us back to the gold standard, if only. But yeah, now I see someone has asked the question. Now let me ask you this one: do you prefer your Fuda with balls or no balls?
What's a Fuda?
Okay, so Fuda is it is a female character, an anime female character who is very much.
Don't even waste your time.
Well, who is actually female? Well, okay. Well, it's usually an anime. It's not necessarily only anime, but it is a female character who is able to produce a very, very large penis.
Oh my God.
Now the question.
Come on, man. Come on. I said spicy takes, not this stuff.
No. So this is a serious question. You gotta. Would you prefer your food? Now you don't have a choice in this. Would you prefer your food to have balls or no balls? You're going to have to do this. There's a gun pointed to you, and you can't escape.
I mean, balls. Why not balls? So you got to have balls.
That is the correct answer. Yes, that is the correct answer. Good job.
I don't even know what I answered, but
you said you would rather have. Would you rather be?
Well, I don't care. I said it.
Okay, well, good choice. I'll give you that. Yeah, I see right now here. People are talking about Ron Paul still, and I print shit says I need to go to an event. Same here. I would love to go to one as well. Wolfwind is not happy about this. Sounds like an LGBTQ plus question.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good point. Keep this going, acceleration. Well, if you guys want more questions, by all means, please keep asking them. I say we will probably do this for maybe 10 more minutes because I think, or the only other question I would pretty much have would be Octoprint, really, because that's another thing I think people like to use is Octoprint. But
yeah, I love Octoprint. It's just a matter of getting Raspberry Pis nowadays. But
that's the challenge. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I really like Octoprint. I only have 3 of my printers on Octoprint because I only have 3 Raspberry Pis, but yeah, it's what I prefer to use. I definitely over, like, for instance, like Cheaty has internet access on their printers, but you have to use their Cheaty print software to access it. I definitely prefer Octoprint over basically any other way to do it. And it's, I don't know, it's been around for a long time. I've been using Octoprint since I started at my old company in like 2014 or 15. So.
Okay, well, I see Ken's Counseling Couch. That was another actual real question as well. Has Sean tried GST 3D filament and his thoughts on it? They basically let you buy a bulk for kilograms. Does Polymaker do that as well? And do they have a bulk discount? I think
so. That's a good question. I've never even heard of it. So I'm spoiled. Polymaker. I guess I'll let the small people in the chat in on this. They were sending me their Amazon returns. That's how I would get my filament. So if you didn't like your Polymaker and you returned it, it came to me. So
yeah, and it also went to me a little bit sometimes too.
So it actually got a little overwhelming. I got a little bit, as Polymaker got more popular, they obviously got more returns, and I had to tell them to stop because I had too much filament. That's why if you just see like Ralph just got a bunch of filament, and
Me,
Chairman one, and you, and
yeah, like it's a lot. It's a lot
so
of polytera.
I haven't bought filament in a while because of that. So I'm not the right guy to ask.
As someone that I've bought a lot of filament myself, I've tried a lot. Overture I think is pretty good. I like Overture's red more than Polymaker's red. Polymaker's Polylite PLA Pro is honestly very good. I think it's better than eSun. It prints nicer. It's a bit stronger as well. The best filament I've definitely used though is Polymaker's Polymax PLA, but it's not necessary for everything. Like it is just it has some of the best layer adhesion I have ever just had. Like it, even if a print is under extruded and should break, it will not break.
Well, here's my Hoffman lower in Polymax PLA.
Yeah, it's really good. Like the supports are very hard to break off sometimes, just because it is that. Or, well, if you want to like break them, like
maybe if you're don't have the settings in, I could do it with my hand, but the brim is holding it on.
Yeah.
See, I got it off with just a little tug.
Yeah, but Polymax PLA, it's more that one's more expensive. I don't think you need that for everything, but Polylite PLA Pro is pretty good. I do know someone tried buying from them in bulk though, and I think they said yes. They usually, or their Twitter account is very good. I think maybe their email is probably good. The guy that runs PR for them is just a fantastic guy.
I've interviewed him on my channel too. He wrote the material science chapter in my book. I really like him. He's a good guy.
But yeah, no, he's really good. If you go on Twitter or anything like that, you ask him. Like I posted, oh look at my my FGC9 jammed, and he responded pretty quickly, and then said, oh we'll send you another spool of Polymax PLA Pro or Polymax, yeah. And I was like, oh,
it's really cool too. I mean, he's French, but he lives in China, and so to be able to participate in our community the way he does, it's really admirable.
And I guess this will be a fun little question too. Does AI integration pose some interesting privacy issues? Open source ones, at least in that case, you know what's going on. If it's not open, if it's closed source, yeah, you could argue it does bring in some interesting privacy issues. I
mean, you can see by my shirt we have enough privacy issues as it is, so I'm not really.
Yeah, no. Do you want to stand up and show the bottom part?
It says the only part of the government that actually listens.
I like the shirt. That's a good one. But let me see what else we got here. Polymax is good. 3D Fuel is also some good shit. So yeah, I'm gonna also test out this HTPLA. Like I said, Overture I've used. I think it's pretty good. I haven't used Duramax, but I've heard interesting things about that. eSun is honestly just the most. It's hit or miss. You can either get good good spool.
And if anyone wants to try carbon fiber nylon, I haven't printed it yet, but the CoreXY is the one everybody's raving about, and I guess it's the same formula as the Zytel stuff from back in the day. So check out CoreXY for anybody wanting to try out carbon fiber nylon.
Yep, and what else? I've also used Sunlu. That was my go-to eSun replacement. That one was okay. I think they became Jayo, in which Jayo was like it was like $15 for like PLA Plus. It was great for a point in time, but dear God, when I switched, I thought it was just normal to get clogs every other print. Then I tried Polymax Pro, and then I realized, oh wait, no, I think it's just this filament's crap. Okay,
yeah.
So I'll just say, getting good filament is a very nice thing to get. And what else do I see here too?
Yeah. Any more spicy takes in the last 5 minutes? I'm here. I mean,
yeah. About
throw them in here.
Let me go.
You don't have to contribute to AG's waifu fund. I'll answer.
And then someone's also mentioning about what is it? Fiberglass. Adding fiberglass. I know Ivan talked about it. It does help with fixing prints, but it's a bit. Have you tried it at all?
No.
But I think Ivan has a thing about it's on the Truth About Guns. He has a whole little piece about it. I think he even posted something. I'm not sure I don't know where to find it anymore. I don't think it's on the catalog, but there is a PDF. I might post it somewhere, but I do know he goes over how it works. I think one of his original Plastikovs was printed, and then he used that to strengthen it. It does work. It's just a little bit of a pain to do.
I want to do Ho Mo's question to get you a strike.
How about no? Don't do that. Let's not do that one. That's a bad idea.
I'm literally just right before we sign off. I'm just gonna yell all these profane words.
We already have Spooky on here, and he just same with oh my god, Chairman. Oh my god, Chairman just loves yelling slurs the moment I turn off the thing. It's like, oh my god, Chairman. At least wait a little bit longer before then. What if we were still streaming? But it's always interesting with him. But let me see what else we got here too. I think here. Someone was saying, do you prefer your FGC9 with Fuda balls or no balls?
What's with this balls stuff? Come on. I mean, is that a spicy question? I don't think that is. That's just
Well, yeah, good. I guess.
no more anime stuff either. What is this? Come on, guys.
Well, okay, that's a fun one.
I've
All right,
never seen the anime in my life because I'm an adult.
Oh, those are fighting words there. But I got a good fun one for you. My favorite gun is the Jericho. The Jericho is an Israeli gun. What's your opinion on foreign aid to Israel as a libertarian yourself?
Oh, and foreign aid everywhere. I mean, we give more money to Israel's enemies than we do to Israel. So,
I mean, my big problem with everything we're giving to Ukraine is think about the Israeli Defense Fund. Like, how are they going to handle it? I mean, well, the Iron Dome isn't going to help itself, man. It's how else are they going to update it?
There you go. Best way to overthrow government: crypto and 3D printed guns. There you go. I've become a fan of agorism. I don't know if it's pronounced agorism. I'm not really sure. Just start your own thing. Just ignore them.
Yeah, run a temp tower. Well, that's an interesting way of doing that. I guess I don't want to know what that's supposed to mean for overthrowing the government, but that's interesting.
Because like I avoid all of these topics on my channel, but since we're on your channel, I don't care.
Well, yeah, no, everyone feels the need. We hit the 2-hour mark, so yeah, you can say whatever the hell you want. So it's actually good. No, YouTube stops listening after 2 hours, believe it or not. Like as long as you don't like show porn or anything, like you can say all the slurs you want, and then usually they don't for some reason they just don't listen to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's a fun thing. How do you think about gender? I'm reading a quote from Ken. I'll let you respond to this.
Yeah. I'm not trying to draw their attention. I think genocides are wrong.
Well, here we go. How about this one? Funny you mentioned that. So here you go. Here's another one for you.
Here we go. Now we're getting real spicy. So I'm technically Jewish, and so I got a free trip to Israel back when I was 26. What was that? A long time ago now. And we actually went to the right outside the West Bank. And that was like my first real comprehension of what was going on. And they were like, this is a no-go zone. Anybody comes here gets shot. I literally asked a question. I'm like, so they can't leave? And they were like, no. I'm like, isn't this what they did to our people? And yeah, and then I had to shut up for the rest of the trip. So yeah, no, I'm obviously not pro that.
Oh, so okay. Well, that's a fun spicy take. I was going to mention.
Well, especially because I was at an Israeli military base right next to the West Bank, and I just had to shut up after that second question. I realized I was asking too much. So
well, I mean, it's okay. Now the fictional country of Palestine is always interesting. Same thing with Kurdistan as well. What else do we have here?
Our chat's gonna fall apart. That's fine. We're 2 hours in, and I'm gonna be going to eat some dinner in a couple minutes. So.
Yeah, don't worry, we're good here. I'm not gonna read what someone else put there. It's funny that Ho Ho Homo hasn't been saying everything yet. That's interesting. But hey, who here is not a Fed? Everyone here is a Fed. What else do we have here too?
Just assume everyone is.
Yeah, no, there's other fun ones too. What's your opinion on the war on you? How about actually, have you been keeping up with the Amber Heard Johnny Depp case?
I not anything recent. I knew about it when it like started. Yeah, and she seems like a very bad person.
my favorite thing I've seen so far. Apparently, they're forcing a trend where it's I stand with Amber Heard, where it is just the most contrarian. It's just the most. If you've been watching the trial, it is just infuriating reading half the people that are very certain about how are proven everything. It's quite terrible, but yeah.
Yeah.
Have you seen her? He was asking if you did see a short skirt. What happened to Epstein? Yeah, what did happen to Epstein?
He's being hidden, and they're gonna bring him out for a trial. He's gonna bring them all down. No, I don't know. I think he was a CIA asset. But.
Well, okay. I have another question too. What's your opinion on Oh, wait a second. Wait, let me read some of these first before we do that. What is it? Lol, I saw a meme saying we were watching a fire Netflix documentary in the making. What else we hear? Amber Heard is borderline personality disorder. Okay, here we go. Ho Homo, I'll only let you do this for one time because Sean asked for it. Okay, don't do this again. Next time we have people in the chat, please God. But because Sean asked for it, you can do it.
I'm not a history guy, so I mean, what do we talk? What do we think of the time?
What do you think of the times? Jews have created favorable treatment in Muslim nations after they have helped them conquer white nation.
Whatever the most spicy take is, I have that. I don't know the answer to this.
Well, this is usually any time I have anyone of note inside the chat. Oh, Homo will ask questions like this, and it makes everyone very uncomfortable.
Yeah, well, hey, I'm gonna.
Well, you can go even harder. Well, don't worry, my friend, because we are. Sean's time limit is up. So I'm so sorry. If only you had your opportunity. Maybe next time he comes on the channel, you can gladly do it. But next time, please, for the love of God, keep it to the Odyssey chat. All right, everyone. Thank you, Sean, for showing up. By the way,
everyone, go get your Biden bucks.
Yeah, not only your Biden books. Be sure to pick up 3D printed failures: how to diagnose and repair all desktop 3D printing issues on Amazon right now. I believe it is on sale. Correct?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, as long as Amazon does it, I'm not the reason it's on sale. So,
well, either way, it is a great book if you guys are needing to get started and everything. I think, if anything, the best thing we can both agree with the Biden bucks and all of this is that maybe there might be some more, or there'll be some nice upgrades, I guess. Hopefully, it should push the consumer market a little bit further in the better direction. Hopefully, companies like, Companies like Creality will start taking more risks. I think, is that about what you'd say?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. And I guess some other fun things, and we'll try to finish that high-powered video soon. It's been fun. But either way, thanks for everyone that showed up, and I'm going to end the stream right now. Thank you to our guest, and